One bright, sunny weekend morning, Amane finally wakes up from his sleep. He decides to wait in the living room for Mahiru, and before long, she shows up looking just as nervous. They have recently started dating, but they still aren't completely comfortable with each other. Mahiru tries to lean on him, but he suddenly stops her, which causes her to tear up. Amane quickly tries to explain that he's just really tense because they're in a new relationship. Mahiru admits that she's nervous too, but her desire to be closer to him is stronger than her anxiety. She suggests that both of them should try to be more open with their feelings. Amane asks if he can move closer and scoots nearer to her side. However, Mahiru notices that they still aren't even touching. She asks if physical contact is something he's uncomfortable with. He apologizes for being so stiff, but admits that it mostly stems from his lack of experience in acting like a proper couple. He then asks Mahiru what couples are usually like. She begins describing how couples normally behave, but this only prompts Amane to point out that they had already been doing all of those things when they were still just friends. Mahiru suddenly realizes that they had been acting like a couple long before officially becoming one. She apologizes, admitting that it was mostly her fault. She had wanted to attract Amane's attention and in the process ended up acting like his girlfriend even before they started dating. Instead of trying to follow what other couples do, she suggests that they should simply focus on getting closer to each other in their own way. As she speaks, their hands naturally find each other. Amane apologizes for overthinking things, then suggests that from now on, he'll continue doing the usual things he always has, but with more love in his actions. Mahiru's heart swells at his earnest declaration. She wraps him in a warm hug and asks if it would be okay for them to start going to school together on Monday. On Monday morning, Mahiru is shocked to see Amane changing clothes right in front of her. She quickly scolds him, but Amane casually tells her that he doesn't mind her seeing him without a shirt since they need to get used to it if they plan to go swimming together during the summer. However, his thoughts suddenly begin drifting in a different direction, so he quickly tells Mahiru to start making breakfast. Later on, Mahiru admits that she feels a little uneasy about Amane showing up to school with his new hairstyle. She worries that it might attract a lot of girls' attention. Determined not to lose her place by his side, she decides that she'll simply smother him with affection so no one else will get the chance to make a move on him. The idea makes Amane uneasy because he doesn't want other people to see just how sweet Mahiru truly is. His comment makes Mahiru blush and she complains that her heart is going to explode from how sweet he's being. However, Amane points out that Mahiru is much worse since she's affectionate all the time. Mahiru quickly counters that his compliments are far more lethal because they come out of nowhere. She buries her head against his chest and decides that today, he's allowed to keep complimenting her. Later, as they walk hand in hand to class, students from their school begin to notice them. Amane already has a feeling that rumors will start spreading soon. Still, he reassures Mahiru that he has no intention of stopping their relationship just because of what others might say. Suddenly, their friend Chitose runs up to them, clearly delighted to see that things have finally worked out between Mahiru and Amane. Chitose happily declares that all of her mentoring for Mahiru is paid off, which surprises Amane, since he had no idea that Mahiru had been receiving advice from her. Chitose then takes a closer look at Amane and notices that there's a different aura about him. Amane apologizes to Chitose. However, she doesn't make a big deal out of it, since she already knows that Amane is the type of person who prefers to say things face to face rather than message any of them updates about what's going on. The three of them continue walking together, with Amane promising to treat Chitose to some crepes as thanks for helping them get together. Once they arrive at school, Amane's friends immediately congratulate him for finally getting together with Mahiru. They tease him relentlessly, pointing out that it took half a year for the two of them to officially start dating. Suddenly, a classmate named Ayaka approaches Amane. Upon realizing that it's really him, she and her group of friends begin complimenting him on his new look. Amane graciously accepts the compliments, and because of his friendly attitude, the girls feel comfortable enough to ask if he is dating Mahiru, since there are talks that people saw them holding hands. When Amane confirms the relationship, the girls swoon and eagerly start asking for more details, especially about how they met. Amane honestly explains that they first became friends and only recently decided to start dating. At that moment, Mahiru walks up to the group and confirms everything that Amane has just told them. She openly admits to the girls that she's very happy, especially because she had a very long crush on Amane. The two of them then begin playfully arguing over which one of them fell in love first. However, Mahiru soon starts complaining that it took him a long time to finally admit his feelings for her. As the two continue flirting, it becomes obvious that they are completely lost in their own world, barely noticing the people around them. They suddenly realize that the entire class is quietly watching their interactions. Itsuki wastes no time teasing Amane about their public display of affection, but Mahiru is actually pleased by how open they are with each other in public. A little later, people are still talking about Amane and Mahiru's new relationship, and Amane hopes that the attention surrounding them will die down soon. He is with Makoto and Kizuya, since they have gotten close since the sports festival. His friends approach him, noticing that he has been spending more time with other people lately, which relieves them. Despite everything, Makoto points out that most of the girls are actually relieved that Amane and Mihiru have openly confirmed their relationship. Because of that, the boys who had been pursuing Mihiru have finally given up and are now looking at other girls. Hearing this, Amane hopes that people will start treating Mihiru more normally from now on. Many students tend to look at her like she's an angel, and that kind of attention has always bothered her. Mihiru overhears her name being mentioned and walks over to them. The boys quickly invite her into the conversation since the discussion is about her in the first place. Mihiru calmly tells them that she doesn't mind the nickname as much anymore. To her, being known as Amane's girlfriend is more than enough. Amane immediately grows embarrassed, while his friends point teasingly in his direction. They remind him that he should tell Mihiru to tone down the flirting. During lunch, Chitose begins drooling over the lunch that Mihiru prepared for Amane. However, since Amane refuses to share his meal, Mihiru kindly offers to trade some of her food with Chitose instead. Amane starts eating right away, and Yuta quickly points out that he looks like he's genuinely enjoying the meal, which makes Mihiru beam with happiness, since she likes watching Amane enjoy her cooking. She happily mentions that she plans to learn all of Amane's favorite dishes soon. Amane insists that she can keep cooking whatever she personally likes, since everything she makes is already delicious and he's perfectly happy eating any of it. Itsuki then jokingly asks them to keep their flirting in public to a minimum. Despite the tease, he understands that their behavior is also sending a message that no one can come between them. Still, Itsuki gently reminds Amane to be a little more mindful of their surroundings whenever they start flirting. By the end of the day, Amane and Mihiru leave school together, with Amane feeling completely exhausted from everything that had happened. It turns out that many people who previously had crushes on Mihiru had approached him to confront him. However, the moment Mihiru made it clear just how much she loved Amane, they quickly gave up on grilling him. Mihiru feels proud of herself for proving her love to him, mentioning that she would have said more things if given the time of day. Before heading home, the two stop by a grocery store. Mihiru feels especially grateful that she can now go shopping openly with him, and the two of them casually discuss what they should have for dinner without worrying about what people think of them. Mihiru mentions that she would like to have fish for dinner since they had eaten a lot of meat over the past few days. Amane decides to request mackerel, and Mihiru immediately agrees, saying that it's the perfect choice since the fish is currently in season. She also mentions that she knows how to prepare a delicious sweet and sour sauce to go with it, and gently promises not to make it too sour for Amane's taste. Amane is amazed that she remembers that detail about him. As they continue their walk home, Amane begins to wonder if they might have moved too quickly in their relationship, considering that they had only known each other for half a year. To Mihiru, however, that period already feels too long, especially since Amane had realized her feelings much earlier but pretended not to notice them. Even so, she isn't angry with him. Instead, she simply feels grateful that they are finally together and can openly show how much they love each other. Amane tries to rein in her display of affection, warning her that it might awaken the wolf inside him sooner or later. Mihiru immediately understands the implication behind his words and shyly promises to keep herself in check. The next day, Amane can't help but notice that Mihiru seems to have become even more popular since they started dating. Itsuki explains that now that Mihiru appears more approachable, other girls are no longer too intimidated to talk to her. The fact that she is capable of dating someone as normal as Amane makes her seem less distant and far less unapproachable than before. Amane reflects on how Mihiru used to speak only with a small circle of friends, him included, before they officially became a couple. Now, everyone has begun to see just how sweet and kind Mihiru truly is, and the thought of having to share her warmth with others makes Amane feel a little uneasy. Itsuki quickly picks up on Amane's possessive feelings and teases him about it. However, he soon reassures Amane, saying that he's certain Amane gets to see sides of Mihiru that she never shows to the public. After school, Ayaka, who is assigned to class duty with Amane, casually mentions that he has changed and has become much easier to talk to ever since he started dating Mihiru. She admits that he always seemed somewhat unapproachable before. Still, she doesn't blame him for his aloof personality, since she understands that he was never a bad person and was just someone who preferred to keep his circle small. Amane openly admits that he made a conscious effort to be more friendly so he could spend more time with Mihiru, because he genuinely likes her. Ayaka responds by saying that she believes Mihiru must feel deeply loved, since Amane is willing to change for her. In her opinion, that kind of effort is one of the clearest forms of love. She also adds that she believes Mihiru loves him just as much. At that moment, Mihiru enters the room and apologizes for making Amane wait for her. Ayaka quickly confirms that they are finished with their class duties. As a small gesture of thanks for all his help, she hands Amane a protein bar before leaving the couple alone together. As Amane waves goodbye to Ayaka, he notices that Mihiru looks like she has something on her mind. Mihiru quietly shares that Amane seemed to be having fun talking with Ayaka earlier. Wanting to reassure her, Amane gently pulls Mihiru into a hug and explains that they were simply talking about how much he has changed recently. He tells her that Mihiru played a big role in helping him become friendlier, and he also points out that he has noticed Mihiru smiling more often these days as well. With a soft expression, she tells him that she smiles because of all the time Amane spends with her. One rainy day, Mihiru and Amane head out together to do some grocery shopping. Mihiru isn't too fond of the gloomy weather, but Amane casually mentions that he actually likes the rain. He recalls that they first met on a rainy day, and he feels that the rain was what originally brought them together. Before Mihiru can comment, Amane quickly adds that he also likes rainy days because stores tend to have discounted items. Mihiru giggles at his practical reasoning. Once they return home, Mihiru asks what Amane had been talking about earlier during their PE class. The moment she brings it up, Amane accidentally drops his phone onto his foot, remembering the conversation he had with the boys. They had been teasing him about how far his relationship with Mihiru had progressed. They'd also joked about Mihiru receiving romantic advice from Chitose. Trying to divert the conversation, Amane insists that it's nothing Mihiru needs to worry about. Although she looks slightly troubled, Mihiru gently tells him that he doesn't have to share everything with her if he doesn't want to. Amane smiles fondly at her response, once again reminded of why he loves Mihiru so much. He then admits that he is already aware that Mihiru has been getting love advice from Chitose. He reassures her that he doesn't mind as long as she doesn't share too much private information with Chitose. The next day, Mihiru tells Amane to go ahead and walk home without her. However, she reminds him not to walk home with another girl. She trusts him, but she admits that she doesn't like the idea of seeing him with other women. Amane is about to pat her on the head to comfort her, but after noticing several classmates watching them, he decides to simply reassure her that Mihiru is the only girl he will ever need. Mihiru is deeply touched by his sincere reassurance. In return, she decides that he deserves to know about her plans. With a nervous expression, she admits that she will be going shopping with Chitose to buy swimsuits. This revelation surprises Amane because as far as he remembers, Mihiru doesn't even know how to swim. That is exactly why she chose their current school, since it doesn't require students to take swimming lessons. Mihiru reminds him that he had previously mentioned wanting to go to the pool together as a couple. She then shyly asks what kind of swimsuit he would like to see her wear. Caught off guard, Amane quickly tells her not to choose anything too revealing. Mihiru decides that she will just ask Chitose for advice instead, prompting Amane to immediately send Chitose a message begging her to keep Mihiru's swimsuit choices modest. Later that evening, after finishing his shower, Amane steps out and notices that Mihiru is still inside his apartment. Curious, he asks why she is staying so late. When Mihiru turns around and sees him shirtless, she becomes flustered and reminds him that she had already told him to dress properly when she is around. As she continues to avoid looking at him, Amane reminds her that she needs to get used to seeing him without a shirt if they plan to go swimming. Still refusing to face him directly, Mihiru admits that she can't help feeling embarrassed because this more confident side of Amane makes him look handsome. She tries to explain that her heart is beating wildly at the moment. Overwhelmed by affection for her honesty, Amane gently hugs her from behind, wanting her to understand that he feels just as nervous as she does after hearing her confession. However, when he suddenly realizes how awkward his actions might seem, he begins to pull away. But Mihiru reaches out and stops him. She explains that seeing him like this makes her realize just how masculine he really is. Confused, Amane asks what she used to think of him before. Mihiru shyly admits that he always looked a bit skinny in the past. Amane apologizes for appearing weak, but Mihiru surprises him by suddenly placing her hands against his abdomen. She softly explains that he is actually much more muscular than she initially assumed. Sensing that the situation is starting to become dangerous, Amane quickly warns her. He gently holds her in place to stop her from touching him any further, even as she reassures him that she wouldn't mind if he touched her. Amane blushes deeply and warns her once again. This time, Mihiru finally understands the implication behind his words, so she quickly stops and suggests that they save that kind of closeness for another day. Amane agrees, admitting that he might lose control. He gently pats her on the head and reassures her that he would never do anything to hurt her. The two of them then move to sit on the couch together, where Mihiru confesses that she feels a little anxious about getting closer to him. At the same time, she shyly admits that she is also looking forward to sharing their first kiss. Mihiru understands that Amane is only being considerate toward her, and she doesn't want to pressure him into anything. As she gently explains her feelings, Amane pulls her into his arms, feeling a strong sense of protectiveness over her. Mihiru then mentions that Koyuki had helped her realize how rare someone like Amane truly is and how lucky she feels to have him by her side. It was his sincerity and the way he values her that made her fall deeply in love with him. Moved by her heartfelt words, Amane softly kisses her on the cheek and shyly asks if that kind of kiss would be acceptable for now. Mihiru immediately becomes flustered, but she can't deny how happy the kiss made her feel. Feeling overwhelmed by his emotions, Amane gently warns her that he might do something she could find a little too intense. Then, acting on impulse, he gives her a small hickey, catching Mihiru completely off guard. Once she regains her composure, she shyly tries to return the gesture. However, when she pulls away from his neck, she realizes there is no mark at all. Amane simply holds her close, feeling grateful for the intimacy they now share. On another day at school, the boys gather on the rooftop as Itsuki cheerfully remarks that summer is just around the corner. Amane tries to remain indifferent, but Itsuki immediately teases him, saying that he should be especially excited since it means he'll get to spend even more time with Mihiru. Amane attempts to argue that it's not necessarily the case, but Itsuki insists that it absolutely is. Yuta joins the conversation, sharing that he has also noticed how affectionate Mihiru and Amane have become lately. Still, he personally doesn't mind their lovey-dovey behavior since it keeps potential admirers away from both Mihiru and Amane. Later that evening, Amane asks Mihiru if she would like to visit his hometown with him sometime soon. After recovering from the initial surprise, Mihiru happily admits that she would be willing to go anytime. As they sit down to eat dinner together, they begin discussing the details of the trip. Eventually, they decide that a 2-week visit would be ideal. Amane mentions that his mother, Shioko, would be happy. This leads him to wonder whether they should take the opportunity to officially tell his parents about their relationship. At first, both of them hesitate, thinking it might still be too soon. However, after talking it through, they begin to feel that the trip could be the perfect time to share the news. Mihiru mentions that it would only be proper for her to introduce herself as Amane's girlfriend, since she is taking Amane away from his mother. Amane quickly points out that it should actually be his responsibility to speak to Mihiru's parents about that someday, not the other way around. The mere thought of Amane meeting her parents one day immediately makes Mihiru flustered. On the long-awaited pool day, Amane patiently waits while Mihiru finishes changing. When she finally steps out, dressed in a simple white 2-piece swimsuit, Amane is left completely speechless. Mistaking his silence for disappointment, Mihiru nervously assumes that he doesn't like how she looks. Startled, Amane quickly reassures her, telling her that she looks beautiful. However, when he notices several people staring at Mihiru, he suddenly feels protective. Without hesitation, he drapes his jacket over her shoulders to cover her and quickly guides her toward a quieter section of the pool. Mihiru playfully teases him, asking what he would have done if the two of them had been completely alone. Amane honestly admits that he probably might have reached out to touch her. Hearing his candid answer, Mihiru suddenly hugs his arm tightly. Amane quickly points out that he can feel her, but Mihiru calmly responds that it was part of her intention. Amane begins to suspect that Mihiru's angel persona has taken a break. Trying to regain control of the situation, Amane admits that he actually likes the feeling of her holding on to him. At first, this confession makes Mihiru blush, but she manages to press herself even closer. Later, when they finally step into the water, Mihiru becomes extremely nervous. She clings to Amane, clearly terrified. He gently reassures her that he would never let her drown and adds that if she somehow did, he could always perform mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on her. Mihiru pouts and asks if she really has to drown just to get him to kiss her. Amane quickly explains that a crowded pool is definitely not the right place for them to share their first kiss. Mihiru panics slightly, insisting that she wasn't trying to rush their first kiss at all. She simply wonders whether he will ever want to kiss her. Hearing that question, Amane blurts out that he always wants to kiss her. He realizes that he needs to clear up his feelings properly so he doesn't accidentally hurt Mihiru. Amane admits that he does want to kiss her, but he wants the moment to be meaningful and special. Eventually, Mihiru grows comfortable enough to relax on a floaty in the pool. However, she overestimates how stable it is and suddenly slips off, falling into the water. Thankfully, Amane manages to lift her back above the surface before anything serious happens. Mihiru shyly admits that she had only been confident enough to try floating because she knew Amane was nearby. With a gentle smile, she adds that she knew he would save her, so she was never truly scared. Later, they settle into poolside chairs to rest and enjoy some drinks. Mihiru grows curious about the drink Amane is having and decides to take a sip. However, she quickly becomes overwhelmed by the intense fizz, since she has never tried carbonated drinks before. She explains that she simply wanted to experience the same flavors that he enjoys. Suddenly, they hear familiar voices calling out to them. When they look, they see Chitose and Itsuki inviting them to join them. Chitose immediately starts teasing Amane after noticing him glancing at her. In response, Mihiru nervously adjusts his jacket, accidentally revealing a bit more of her swimsuit underneath. Chitose looks surprised, commenting that she had expected Mihiru to choose the black swimsuit. Hearing this, Mihiru panics and quickly covers Chitose's mouth to stop her from saying anything further. Mihiru hurriedly explains to Amane that the other swimsuit wasn't meant for public settings. Chitose then adds that the swimsuit itself wasn't particularly revealing, but Mihiru's figure made it far more eye-catching. Standing beside her, Mihiru fumes with embarrassment. Determined to end the teasing, she firmly announces that she has no intention of wearing the other swimsuit. A little later, the girls return to the water to play, while Amane and Itsuki remain by the sidelines chatting casually. As he watches her, Amane quietly remarks on how beautiful Mihiru has become, noting that she now smiles far more openly than before. The Mihiru we first met used to keep her emotions tightly guarded, so seeing her relax and genuinely enjoy herself brings him a deep sense of relief. Before long, Chidose and Mihiru call out to the boys, inviting them to join the fun in the pool. Without hesitation, Amane and Itsuki jump in to play along with them. As the day comes to an end, Amane and Mihiru start making plans to visit the pool again. Chidose mischievously brings up the topic of the black bikini to tease Mihiru. Amane, however, is not amused. He firmly tells Chitose that he will never allow Mihiru to wear something too revealing in public, and that, as her boyfriend, only he should be given special viewing privileges. One day, Amane and Mihiru arrive at Amane's hometown to stay for the break. When they spot Shihoko, Amane's mother, they let go of each other's hands since Amane hasn't told her that they are dating yet. As they move closer, Shihoko notices them and eagerly greets Mihiru. Mihiru apologizes for interrupting their family time, but Shihoko insists they are happy to have her. Amane stares at his mother, disappointed that she didn't greet him first, and she quickly tries to make up for it by greeting him enthusiastically. She informs them that Amane's father, Shudo, stayed at home to prepare lunch. She leads the way, and Amane takes Mihiru's hand again to guide her. When they arrive, Shudo welcomes them, making sure to treat Mihiru a little specially since this is her first visit. He also looks over at Amane and notices that he seems more mature now. He then asks Shihoko to handle the house tour so he can finish preparing lunch. She invites them further inside, and Mihiru thanks them for their hospitality. The first place they go is the room prepared for Mihiru, and Shihoko points out the second-floor bathroom. She explains that between Mihiru's room and the bathroom is Amane's room and informs her that their balconies are actually connected. Amane tells Mihiru that he will lock his balcony, and she should probably lock hers, though Mihiru tries to tell him that she isn't worried. Shihoko gushes at their concern for each other and tells them they should begin unpacking while she heads back down to help Shudo. When she is out of earshot, Amane apologizes for his mother being nosy and for the room arrangements. However, Mihiru is actually happy that they share a balcony since it means they can stargaze together. During dinner, they are greeted by a spread of Spanish cuisine, and Shudo asks if Amane has been causing any trouble for Mihiru. Mihiru reassures them that she has never been bothered by Amane, which makes his family comment that Amane has a tendency to act adorable. Mihiru agrees without hesitation, which Amane finds embarrassing. Shudo then asks if Mihiru can join him later to do some shopping, which immediately makes Amane suspicious. Shihoko tells Amane that Shudo is the better person to accompany Mihiru since, if it were her, she would just be fangirling. Shudo also tells Amane to stay home so he can tell Mihiru about Amane's childhood. Later, when Mihiru and Shudo leave, Amane and Shihoko are left doing the dishes. Shihoko shocks him by stating that it is obvious he and Mihiru are already a couple. Amane briefly worries that Shihoko might be against their relationship, but she actually tells him that she loves Mihiru like a daughter. However, she does say that based on how they act around each other, she assumes they have already sealed the deal. The statement nearly causes Amane to drop the plate he was washing. Shihoko expresses that since she really wants Mihiru as a daughter, they will help make sure Mihiru stays interested in him. Amane says he won't let go of someone he cares about that easily, which amuses Shihoko because he reminds her of Shudo. Amane argues that he doesn't possess the same charm Shudo has, but Shihoko believes that he does. Later, when Mihiru returns, the couple stays in Amane's room. Amane notices that Mihiru is fidgeting and guesses that Shudo must have said something about him. Mihiru reassures him that it wasn't anything bad and that Shudo mostly asked her about how Amane has been doing in school. But she mentions that Shudo also told her about some cute events from when Amane was a boy. Amane tries to get Mihiru to share, but she keeps averting her eyes to avoid giving more details. She finally settles on explaining that she now knows how cute he was as a child. Amane is a little annoyed, so he stands up and decides to punish her. He sits Mihiru on his lap and tells her that since she isn't sharing anything, she's going to get tickled. He drags a finger along her side, which immediately makes her squirm, then proceeds to mercilessly tickle her, despite Mihiru's protests for him to stop. He finally stops, and Mihiru complains that he's being mean. She explains that nothing bad happened during their conversation, and that she only learned small details, like how he had a hard time riding a bike, how he used to give Shihoko big hugs, and how he tried spiking his hair in middle school to look cool. The details his father shared annoy Amane a bit, but Mihiru decides to hold on to them for payback since she got tickled earlier. She even sweetly teases that next time, as punishment, she will whisper all the other things Shudo told her into his ear. Amane eventually gives in and strokes Mihiru's head as she cuddles closer to him. The next morning, Amane wakes up and sees Mihiru looking through his photo albums with his parents. He complains, and Mihiru gets the feeling she wasn't supposed to look at them, but he says they should have just told him. When Mihiru shares that she finds the photos cute, he complains that most of them are embarrassing. Shudo smiles at their interaction and shares how happy he is that Mihiru is such a kind and dependable person. However, he admits that he feels a little sad that neither of them had come forward about their relationship. Amane feels slightly annoyed at being reprimanded since his parents figured things out on their own. so he asks if they have a problem with their relationship. Shihoko says she is happy, but then asks if Mihiru is sure she wants to be Amane's girlfriend. Mihiru replies that she is aware of Amane's shyness, but that is one of the reasons she likes him so much. Hearing Mihiru praise Amane makes them gush, as they are now happy to have her as a possible daughter-in-law. Amane looks at them, suddenly feeling left out. A little later, Mihiru visits Amane in his room to bring him a snack. He is surprised since he expected her to spend more time with his parents. He admits he has been feeling left out, and since he knows Mihiru is about to apologize, he tells her that she didn't do anything wrong. He understands that she enjoys talking to his parents. Mihiru buries her head against his chest and admits that while she is happy talking to his parents, she enjoys the moments she spends with him the most. They sweetly kiss each other on the face, and Amane asks if they should go somewhere tomorrow since his parents will be busy at work and he hasn't had the chance to show her around town yet. She shares that it was actually his parents who encouraged her to spend time with him right now. Touched by everyone's concern, he suggests they spend time together eating the cream puffs she prepared for him. The next day, Amane and Mihiru head out to walk around. At home, Shudo and Shihoko remain in the house, musing about Amane's relationship. Shudo mentions that he really loves Shihoko for her personality, which makes her gush. Back with Amane and Mihiru, they find themselves watching children run around in the park. Mihiru asks if Amane dislikes running, and he shares that he actually enjoys it, he just doesn't like having to do it during PE. Mihiru suggests he join the children playing, but Amane refuses because it would look suspicious, and he knows Mihiru cannot join him due to her clothes. Mihiru admits that a part of her wants to join in since it looks fun and that she never really experienced playing with others as a child. Looking at the family nearby, Amane suggests that someday they should find time where they can simply play together. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to Amane, and he feels a sick sensation in his gut. When he turns, he sees an old bully, Tojo. Tojo asks if Mihiru is someone Amane just picked up, but Amane corrects him by saying that Mihiru is actually his girlfriend. Tojo suddenly looks smug and begins insulting how pathetic Amane used to be. Amane does his best to ignore him, but notices that Mihiru seems uncomfortable. Tojo tries to convince Mihiru that Amane used to be lame, but Mihiru calmly replies that she already knows about his past and actually finds Amane very adorable. Suddenly, Mihiru and Amane start teasing each other, but Amane refocuses and tells Tojo off. He says that Mihiru isn't going to change her mind about him because Tojo is practically a stranger to her. He admits that many things happened between them in the past, but frankly, Amane doesn't care what Tojo thinks of him anymore. Before Tojo leaves, Mihiru suddenly stops him and asks if he still wants to hear why she likes Amane so much. Instead of answering directly, she asks Tojo how he chooses his company. She believes that if he chooses people based only on how much he can benefit from them, he will never achieve what he truly wants in life. She shares that she once felt the same way. She admits she comes from a wealthy family, but her parents always seemed distant. She only began to feel real happiness after meeting Amane. She firmly believes that everything fell into place as she was preparing to meet him someday. Mihiru tells Tojo that he is still free to choose his friends or partners however he wishes, and she will not judge him for those choices. As for her, she chooses to make Amane her most important person, and as long as he understands her, that will always be enough. Amane eventually stops Mihiru and places himself between her and Tojo. He suddenly thanks Tojo and explains that even though Tojo hurt him in the past, he feels he owes who he is today to him. Because of them, Amane learned how to become his own person by overcoming pain. He also believes that growth led him to meet Mihiru at the right time. Since he believes this may be his last chance to say how he feels, he decides to tell him now. They then leave Tojo behind to reflect on their exchange. Later that evening, Amane looks out from the balcony. He notices Mihiru step onto the balcony despite it being late. They begin talking about the events earlier, and Amane shares that it has made him think about how different he is now. Mihiru comments that it is natural for him to grow with age, not just physically but mentally and emotionally as well. Amane smiles and agrees, then Mihiru tells him that if he ever feels like he is losing confidence, she will be there to remind him how wonderful he is. Hearing her honest feelings makes Amane want to hold her, so he asks for permission. Mihiru thinks about it for a moment but ultimately agrees. They end up back in his room, and Amane promises that he won't do anything strange. When Mihiru says she never expected him to, he holds her close, overwhelmed by how much he loves her. Suddenly, he leans in and kisses her, catching both of them by surprise. He quickly apologizes as Mihiru is still processing what happened. After recovering from her embarrassment, she shyly asks if he can kiss her one more time. Their second kiss carries more purpose, both eager to show how much they care for each other. But Mihiru becomes surprised when Amane gives her several more kisses after that. When she buries her face against his chest, she admits that she doesn't hate kissing him, but is honestly surprised to receive this much affection from him. She looks at him curiously and asks if he has had previous experience before, but Amane denies it and says he was simply overcome with the urge to kiss her. She then nervously asks for another kiss. saying that as long as his intentions are clear, she will always want one from him. They lean toward each other again and kiss, and when they part, Mihiru tells Amane that she now understands the appeal of kissing someone you love after experiencing it herself. She then leans against him and comments that she feels a little cold since the timer on the air conditioner has yet to finish. Amane begins teasing her that he can warm her up. Instead of becoming flustered like usual, Mihiru teases back, even daring him to show her what he means. He pulls her down onto the bed with him, joking that it has been getting harder to tease her lately and that she can use his arm for free, even though he would normally charge a fee. Since it's Mihiru, he says he will make an exception. The two flirt lightly back and forth, allowing themselves to enjoy the closeness they can now share as their relationship continues to grow. The next morning, Amane wakes up to see that Mihiru is sleeping next to him. He takes the moment to admire how cute she looks while she sleeps. He then hears Shudo at the door, asking if he can come in. Amane allows it, but Shudo is surprised when he walks in. Amane signals him to keep his voice down as he quietly leaves them alone. Amane hopes that Shudo thinks innocently of the situation. After a while, Mihiru begins to stir awake but cuddles closer when she sees Amane. It takes her a moment to register that she's in his bed, and when her mind catches up, she is shocked by the situation. Amane kisses her good morning and is surprised that she doesn't remember last night. Mihiru pulls off the sheets, and Amane reassures her that nothing happened. Mihiru blushes, calming her heart over the situation. Amane teases her, saying it seems like she slept well last night, prompting Mihiru to explain that she felt very relaxed in his arms. He takes the opportunity to tease her again and asks if her heart is racing, which she admits it is, but she also feels relaxed. She hugs him closer, settling into his arms as Amane jokingly suggests that they should start sleeping together even when they return to their apartments. To his surprise, Mihiru admits that she would like that, but only on occasion. She says that since they are a couple, it should be acceptable for them to spend evenings together. Amane tells her that sleeping together might lead to something else, and Mihiru tries to explain that she only wants to spend more time with him. Since her reason is innocent enough, Amane decides to agree to her plan but encourages her to finally get up. When he rises, he is surprised when Mihiru suddenly kisses him on the cheek, stating that it is payback for teasing her so much lately. During breakfast, Amane's parents ask if something happened during their walk yesterday since he seemed different after coming home. Amane admits to running into Tojo, but shares that since he is over the entire issue, nothing serious happened between them aside from trying to talk things out. After the confrontation, he feels that he probably won't be seeing much of Tojo anyway. His parents are proud of his maturity in handling the situation and feel that his new relationship has helped him grow more responsible in how he deals with things. Shudo even shares that Shihoko was just as good for him. Shihoko advises Mihiru to make sure that Amane is also taking care of her. Shudo agrees and reminds them both to always have each other's backs, to which Amane responds that they will without any hesitation. Shihoko can no longer contain her giddiness over their relationship and laments the fact that she has to go to work because she would much rather stay home and spoil both Amane and Mihiru. However, Mihiru tells her to hurry up and go, which makes Shihoko tease that she's only in a rush to have the house to themselves so they can make out. When Mihiru and Amane return to his room, Mihiru asks what making out usually entails, and Amane tells her that it usually involves kissing and other things. Since he doesn't elaborate on what other things mean, Mihiru has trouble differentiating it from regular kissing. He decides to settle by saying it also means holding each other, and Mihiru feels confident with that, so she leans against him. Feeling a bit more playful, Amane picks her up and places her on his lap, making sure Mihiru is comfortable before doing anything else. When Mihiru confirms that she is fine in their position, Amane doesn't hesitate and blows into her ear, causing her to get slightly annoyed since she is ticklish. Amane then gently pets her legs as Mihiru comments on how much she likes how big his hands feel. Starting to feel braver, he tries placing his finger just below her chest, telling Mihiru that making out usually involves a lot of touching, and that might mean he could feel things she wouldn't be comfortable with. He notices that Mihiru is starting to look nervous and tells her he wouldn't do anything she doesn't like, but reminds her that he is also a guy. He is surprised when Mihiru grabs him and nervously tells him that she actually wouldn't mind being touched by him. Amane kisses Mihiru before giving her one last warning, then gently bites her ear. Later, when Shudo and Shihoko return home, Shihoko notices that Mihiru is bright red and immediately teases Amane. She says she knows he wouldn't do anything inappropriate, but mentions that they must have been making out while they were left alone. Amane argues that they were only cuddling, and that makes Shihoko jealous because she wanted to cuddle with Mihiru too, but Amane doesn't allow it because, according to him, Mihiru belongs to him alone. To put Shihoko at ease, Shudo suggests that they all go out as a family soon and visit a place Mihiru would like. The next day, Amane returns from shopping completely soaked from the rain. Mihiru greets him right away, a little taken aback by his appearance, especially when he brushes back his bangs. She hands him a towel and suggests that he go ahead and take a bath. As Amane dries his hair, he mentions that this small domestic moment feels nice and that he enjoys being greeted by Mihiru and having a warm bath to come home to. After his bath, Mahiru blow-dries his hair and comments on how silky it is. Amane feels that Mahiru's hair is better than his, but Mahiru complains about the amount of effort she puts into maintaining it due to its length. She admits she has been thinking of cutting it and wants to know which length Amane prefers. Amane admits that he likes seeing Mahiru enjoy all the different styles she can do with long hair, but feels she would also look great with short hair, so whatever length she chooses will suit her just fine. To prove his point, Amane asks how Mahiru prefers his hair, and Mahiru admits that she likes him in whatever hairstyle he chooses. However, she mentions that he looked handsome earlier when he pushed his bangs back. Amane teases her by saying he can do it now if she wants, but Mahiru protests, saying she doesn't want to get too excited. Amane admits that there are moments when she comes out of the bath, and he finds himself catching his breath at the sight of her. It has been happening every day, so Amane has actually been considering locking his door. This makes Mahiru frustrated, and she tells him that it is well within her rights to tempt him. During the weekend, the entire family goes to the mall, and Shihoko makes Amane pick out a dress for Mahiru. At first, he says anything would look good on her, but Mahiru wants to hear his opinion. He decides to point at the yellow one, and Shihoko squeals at how much Amane adores Mahiru. Later, while Shuto and Shihoko are shopping, Amane brings up the dress Mahiru bought during Golden Week. Mahiru remembers it and mentions that she's saving it for the day they go out together on a proper date. Amane smiles since today is more of a family outing than a date, so it's something he can look forward to. On another day, due to the rain, Amane and Mahiru are unable to go out, which dampens Mahiru's mood. Seeing how much this is affecting her, Amane starts feeling bad about the day going to waste, but Mahiru hugs his arm and reassures him that she is fine relaxing with him at home. She mentions that she prefers it now that Amane doesn't blow or whisper into her ear anymore. Since he is reminded of it, he teases that he might do it today, which easily flusters Mahiru since she gave him the idea. She vows to find something that makes him weak in the knees for her. However, Amane wonders out loud if there's anything else she can do because he is already crazy about her. Mahiru pouts since he can flirt so easily, which makes Amane explain that he does find it embarrassing, but he knows that if he isn't clear with his feelings, it could lead to misunderstandings. Mahiru smiles and mentions that she loves his honesty, which makes him blush. Seeing how he responds to her affection makes her feel like she has won something today. A little later, she finds a CD titled Growth Diary, and when they play it, it turns out to contain videos and images from Amane's childhood. Amane ends up turning the video off when things become too embarrassing for him. Later, after completing the chores at home, Amane is shocked to see that Mahiru has changed into the dress she bought last Golden Week. She timidly asks if it looks good on her, and he enthusiastically agrees, deciding to be more specific about what he likes about it. He mentions how the dress looks good because it shows off more of her skin and how nice her figure looks. He even says that she appears taller while wearing it. The compliments become too much for Mahiru, and she ends up embarrassed. They return to his room, and Amane has her on his lap again. He playfully bites her ear, but Mahiru pulls away, overwhelmed by how strongly he is showing his affection. She mentions that she feels strange every time he does it, so Amane promises to save that kind of attention for another occasion. Mahiru slowly relaxes again and mentions that she's glad he liked the dress because she bought it hoping to attract him with it. Hearing her intention, Amane feels that he should admire her in the dress more, so Mahiru crawls out of his lap to sit in front of him so he can see her better. Confirming it again, he says that the dress looks amazing on her, which Mahiru can tell from the way he looks at her. Amane moves closer, cupping her face, and admits that Mahiru is the prettiest girl he knows. Mahiru mentions that he seems more forward today, and Amane explains that it's because they are on a date, even if it's just at home. Mahiru decides to share that whenever he becomes bold, she feels herself getting overwhelmed. She feels like it isn't fair that Amane can easily make her excited while he appears calm when they are together. When Amane mentions that he is excited too, Mahiru presses her ear against his chest to make sure, and she smiles to herself when she hears how erratic his heartbeat is. She settles back onto his lap, and Amane tells her that regardless of the day, they'd always seem to act as if they are on a date. He then expresses his eagerness to visit her place as well. At first, Amane clears up the suspicion that he wants to do anything inappropriate. He is simply curious about what her home looks like, and he wants to see what the picture of him on her desk looks like. Mahiru is shocked that Amane knows about the photo, and even more surprised that he doesn't seem bothered by the fact that she had secretly kept it from him. She thought for sure he would label her as creepy. She admits that Itsuki gave her a photo of Amane smiling when it was rare, and that she is glad he still accepts her despite keeping a picture of him without his knowledge. Amane pulls her close, and Mahiru tells him that with the affection he showers on her, she will end up spoiled. Amane claims that it's payback for her spoiling him first. When Mahiru tries to call him out, he kisses her cheek to distract her, and she ends up burying her face against his chest out of embarrassment. A little later, during their cuddling, Mahiru mentions that Amane has been holding her more often lately. She decides that she likes this feeling because during moments like this, Amane seems smaller than her, and it makes her feel like she can protect him. Amane is surprised because physically Mihiru is still much smaller than him, and holding her always makes him feel like he can protect her from anything. Mihiru feels confident that she was made the size she is because she fits perfectly in his arms. They decide that they were made for each other and hold each other tighter. Amane promises not to leave any marks later, but promises to kiss her. While still clinging to each other, Mihiru admits that she likes life with him in his home, which makes Amane happy since she enjoys being with him and his family. He promises that they can come back again during their next long break and shares that he hopes Mihiru can come to look at his place as home soon. One day, while out on a date, Mihiru notices that the weather is sweltering. She suggests they head back because of the heat so they can get an umbrella for him. But Amane insists it's fine since Mihiru had already applied sunscreen on him. As they walk, Mihiru spots a poster for an upcoming fireworks festival, and Amane mentions that their festival is a big deal. She wants to go but feels disheartened when she realizes the festival will take place after they leave. Mihiru admits she has never attended a summer festival before but insists that Amane shouldn't feel bad for her because she is happy just spending the summer by his side. Amane feels a little embarrassed by her words, but Mihiru explains that she is simply saying what she truly feels. Before Amane can respond, Kaname suddenly bumps into his stomach, causing him to stagger. As Amane recovers, Mihiru notices the other girl and curiously asks who Kaname is. In return, Kaname asks who Mihiru is since she has never seen her before. Amane answers easily, saying that Mihiru is the person he is in love with. He also explains that Kaname is the younger sister of Hinata, someone he used to spend time with. It takes a while for Amane to convince Kaname that he is telling the truth, since she believes he is like Hinata, someone who struggles to even talk to girls. Hinata soon steps out of his house looking for Kaname, and notices Kaname with Amane and Mihiru. He approaches them and remarks on how much Amane has changed over the past 3 years. Wanting to speak with him privately, Hinata tells Kaname to take Mihiru to their mother's garden because it will make their mother happy. Kaname finds it suspicious but then realizes that Hinata wants to talk to Amane alone but still agrees. Kaname takes Mihiru's hand and leads her into the garden. Once Mihiru leaves, Hinata asks if she is Amane's girlfriend. He admits he never imagined Amane would become someone's boyfriend, which makes him wonder what else Amane would do. Hinata then tells him that he looks well despite what happened in the past. Amane realizes that Hinata may feel guilty for not defending him when he was being bullied. Seeing that he regrets it, Amane tells him that he has already moved on. Hinata praises him and says that both of them have grown stronger since middle school. Amane even jokes that they would probably be able to stand up for themselves now if the same situation happened again, though Hinata refuses. Meanwhile, the girls admire the garden until Amane comes to pick Mihiru up. They eventually take their leave, thanking Hinata and Kaname for their time. As he walks with Mihiru, he realizes that he and Hinata said goodbye without any promise to meet again. He understands that neither of them intends to reconnect in the future, not out of malice, but because they live separate lives. As they continue walking, Mihiru mentions that he seems to be meeting many people from his past. To Amane, it feels like fate is helping him tie up loose ends. He feels that confronting these people is something he needs in order to move forward. Mihiru tells him how proud she is of him for facing his past because she is certain she will eventually have to face her own. On their last day in town, Shudo and Shihoko feel sad to see them leave so soon. Shihoko even insists that Mihiru visit more often. Both of them are relieved to see that Mihiru felt comfortable in their hometown, since they had worried she might be too nervous to enjoy anything. Amane jokingly comments that Shihoko had been too pushy, making it hard for Mihiru to refuse anything. Even Shudo agrees, but adds that it's one of the many qualities that make Shihoko a wonderful person. His words make her heart flutter and she hugs him in front of everyone. As their train departure approaches, Shihoko tells Mihiru that she's always welcome in their home, and that if she and Amane ever argue, she can come to them anytime. Shudo adds that misunderstandings are unavoidable and that it's healthy to take space or talk to an adult when needed. He reassures Mihiru that she will always have a place with them. During the ride home, Amane hopes that he was able to show Mihiru what a happy family feels like. He silently vows to help her experience more happiness in the future. A few days after returning, the town holds its own summer festival. Mihiru surprises everyone by wearing a beautiful kimono that Shihoko had sent her. As Amane hears his friends compliment the gift, he agrees silently that Shihoko has excellent taste. Izuki continues praising Mihiru for wearing a kimono, which begins to annoy Chidose since she didn't wear a kimono. He quickly tries to recover by saying that Chidose is always cute, even when she's wearing a face mask. Chidose knows he's lying because he was laughing at her earlier. Because of the crowd, the group decides to stay close together and Mihiru clings tightly to Amane's arm. Amane asks if she wants to try any food or activities, since it's her first festival. Mihiru admits she doesn't know where to start and asks for suggestions. Amane lists common festival foods, but Chidose interrupts, saying she wants cotton candy first, though Amane warns it's not the best idea. Mihiru decides to keep walking and think about it, which Amane says is part of the experience. As they pass Boots, Mihiru notices a game and points it out. Amane explains that it's a cork gun game where you knock down prizes. Mihiru eagerly tries, aiming for a floral-patterned prize. Her first shot misses, but she remains determined. Unfortunately, all her shots miss. Amane tries to comfort her, but their friends insist he should win it for her. Mihiru shyly asks him to try, since she really wants the prize. Amane takes his shot and knocks it down on his first try. Mihiru immediately wears it and beams with happiness, which doesn't go unnoticed. Amane notices and quietly tells Mihiru to tone down her charm a little, saying he would rather keep that side of her to himself. Mihiru becomes flustered and nods quickly, but the movement loosens the clip. Amane fixes it for her right away. Itsuki and Chidose exchange concerned looks, since the two are drawing even more attention. Amane admits he can't help it when it comes to Mihiru. Soon some girls begin admiring Amane as well, which Mihiru overhears. She leans toward him and says she should echo his advice. Eventually, the group settles down to eat. Chidose happily enjoys her food while Mihiru watches curiously. She offers Mihiru a bite of her skewered squid. Itsuki finds it adorable, but Amane feels uneasy seeing others get close to Mihiru. Two male classmates approach them, drawn by Mihiru's appearance. They recognize her and are hoping to strike a conversation that might make her notice them. They are shocked to learn that her kimono came from Shihoko, and ask if Amane already has permission to marry her. Amane quickly insists that they leave to check out other parts of the festival. Once they are a distance away from their schoolmates, Itsuki asks if they brought up their parents on purpose, but the couple neither confirms nor denies the accusation. Chitose then declares that they absolutely need shaved ice next. The group wonders how she manages to stay so thin despite eating so much. Itsuki admits it's one of the things he loves about Chitose because of nice she feels in his arms, though he teasingly adds that he wishes she would gain weight in certain areas. As punishment for the rude remark, Chitose begins stomping on his feet and drags him away so they can talk. Amane asks Mihiru what kind of shaved ice she wants so they can continue enjoying the festival. Once they get their shaved ice, they sit on a bench and watch Chitose scold Itsuki. They realize that they are simply a different kind of couple. Mihiru then notices that Amane got a matcha-flavored shaved ice, which didn't look like something he's into. Amane admits he wanted another sweeter flavor made with mashed beans, but they didn't have it. Mihiru is surprised, since it's quite sweet, and learns for the first time that Amane really likes sweets, especially mashed sweet beans. She understands why the flavor wasn't available, since preparing mashed beans takes time and effort. She then shares that one of her greatest joys is being able to cook for the people she loves. Seeing his chance, Amane asks if she could make him sweet bean paste and dorayaki sometime. She smiles at his request and promises to prepare it. Chitose returns and looks at their shaved ice. She confirms that she has thoroughly punished Itsuki and that he is now repenting by buying shaved ice and a chocolate banana. She then complains about her body, saying she didn't choose to be unable to gain weight. She knows most guys are drawn to girls with figures like Mihiru. Not just her figure, Mihiru is to her probably the ideal girl for most guys, and she can't help but feel a bit jealous since she is practically Mihiru's opposite. Suddenly, Itsuki returns with his peace offerings and Chitose easily forgives him. Mihiru takes another bite of her shaved ice but gets a brain freeze, causing Amane's expression to soften. Chitose notices immediately and teases him about it. Amane turns to Mihiru for confirmation and she agrees. Itsuki offers to show them photos in the future as proof, but Chitose says there's no need since it's obvious how much Amane and Mihiru love each other. Mihiru goes even further, explaining her feelings in more detail, and how each version of Amane is someone she loves and treasures, which unintentionally makes it sound like they've already gone further in their relationship. Knowing how his friends think, Amane quickly clarifies that they haven't. Chitose then asks if they have at least kissed, and Mihiru makes it very obvious that they have. Based on her reaction, Chitose teases how innocent they are, but Amane argues that they are simply going at their own pace. Chitose walks up to Mihiru and advises her to just tell Amane whenever she wants a kiss. The suggestion makes Mihiru panic and she quickly covers Chitose's mouth. After eating more, the group decides to call it a night. Chitose reveals that she will be staying over at Mihiru's place and teases Amane, asking if she needs his permission in case he gets jealous. Amane denies it, saying that Mihiru belongs to him anyway. Mihiru quickly whispers to Chitose that Amane has been coming up with a lot of bold lines lately. Later, Chitose calls Amane from her apartment. Amane initially wants to hang up, but Chitose convinces him to stay on the line and wait for Mihiru to say goodnight. Since Mihiru is still taking a bath, Chitose uses the time to ask Amane how serious his feelings for Mihiru are. She shares her concern that for high schoolers, relationships are often not serious and are treated like flings. Amane asks if that's something Itsuki's father told her. Chitose admits it is and adds that she has a feeling his father doesn't like her from when she visited. Amane answers honestly that he doesn't know how far ahead he's thinking yet, but he is certain that he wants to make Mihiru happy. Chitose says she feels the same way about Itsuki, so Amane tells her not to let other people's opinions affect her. Chidose becomes slightly annoyed at how nice Amane has become, and he admits that it's because of Mahiru's influence. When Mahiru returns, she learns that Chidose was asking Amane for advice and pouts, saying that Chidose never trusts her with that kind of conversation. Chidose immediately tackles her and reassures her that she receives plenty of advice from Mahiru that she treasures. Since the two continue playing around, Amane decides it's time to hang up, though Chidose still tries to make him jealous by stating that Mahiru likes her better, only to be corrected by Mahiru that Amane belongs to his own special category. Chidose eventually stops teasing them, so Mahiru and Amane can say their good nights. She holds her phone up to Mahiru, so Mahiru and Amane are facing each other at eye level. Facing the phone, the couple softly greets each other good night, promising to see each other again the next day. One late afternoon, while heading home with groceries, Amane spots a man he believes to be Asahi, Mahiru's father. Wanting a better look, he deliberately bumps into him, pretending it was an accident before continuing on his way. However, as he walks past Asahi, memories of all the pain Mahiru's parents caused her resurface in his mind. When he enters the building, Mahiru greets him in the lobby. He is surprised, since he hadn't expected her to come meet him downstairs. Mahiru insists on helping him carry the groceries up to the apartment. As Amane looks back, he notices that Asahi is already gone. While waiting for the elevator, Mahiru notices that Amane seems troubled. She tries to get him to explain, though tells him he is not obliged to. Initially, he tries to brush it off since he might just be paranoid. By the time they enter the elevator, Amane finally admits that he bumped into someone whom he thinks might be her father, mentioning that the man had the same eyes and hair color as her. When they reach their floor, Mahiru suddenly stops walking and tells him that it probably wasn't Asahi, because Asahi had never shown much interest in her before. She recalls how, when she was younger, he barely had time for her, with all his attention devoted to work. She mentions that they still speak a few times a year through phone calls, but even those conversations are strictly business. Mahiru firmly believes that Asahi wouldn't have contacted her if he were visiting. She reaches for his door, but suddenly pauses as she realizes that Asahi had never visited her before. Amane gently places his hand over hers as Mahiru quietly says that she is only related to her parents by blood. To her, Koyuki is her real parent. Suddenly, Amane pulls her into his arms, claiming that he just felt lonely all of a sudden. Mahiru immediately realizes he is comforting her instead and softly tells him that it's okay, because being abandoned by her parents no longer hurts her the same way it once did. She also says that she has a new home now, so she'll be alright. Back in Amane's apartment, he lets Mahiru rest on his lap while he strokes her hair. He asks what he should do if he runs into Asahi again, and Mahiru tells him to simply do whatever feels right in the moment. From her answer, Amane can tell that Mahiru doesn't want him getting too involved. Mahiru confirms this, saying that Asahi should be mature enough to speak to her directly if he truly has something to say. She admits she finds it suspicious that Asahi might be watching her, but unless he approaches her himself, she has no intention of doing anything. Amane adjusts her position so she is sitting properly on his lap before giving her a gentle kiss. He tells her that he will trust her decision regarding her family. Still, he promises that if Asahi ever tries to hurt her, he will always be there to take her away from the situation. Holding her close, he tries to ease her worries. A few days later, Amane meets up with Itsuki for a study session, and Itsuki quickly notices that something is bothering Amane. Itsuki offers to listen, noting that this time Amane genuinely seems like he wants to talk instead of bottling everything up like he usually does. Without revealing names, Amane asks how Itsuki would react if someone who had cut ties with him suddenly returned, wanting to reconnect. Itsuki immediately asks if Amane himself is involved, though Amane avoids answering directly. After thinking it over, Itsuki admits that it's a difficult question, especially since he doesn't know the full story. Still, he suggests that maybe the person has something important they want to say face to face. He also considers that some event may have caused a genuine change of heart. However, he reminds Amane that these are only assumptions, since he doesn't know the circumstances. Even so, Itsuki wishes him luck, saying he knows Amane wants to do something for Mahiru's sake. Amane looks surprised, but Itsuki simply grins and says that Amane is easy to read because he would have just said he had the problem if it was about him. On the way home, Amane keeps thinking about Asahi's presence and Itsuki's words. He also remembers Mahiru insisting that Asahi wouldn't be interested in her. Amane doesn't believe that at all. He is convinced that Asahi showed up because he wants something from Mahiru, and it's scaring him what it could be. When he checks his mailbox, he finds a letter addressed to him, and the sender happens to be Asahi. Back in the apartment, Amane is visibly tense, enough for Mahiru to notice. She gently reminds him that he doesn't have to share anything if he doesn't want to. Amane admits that he is worried the topic might be something she doesn't want to hear. Mahiru assumes the man Amane thought was her father showed up again, but Amane explains that he received a letter from someone named Asahi, and he now knows that is the name of Mahiru's father. Immediately, Mahiru realizes it truly was her father who was at the building. She offers to leave and give Amane privacy since the letter seems like something personal. Instead, Amane grabs her hand and asks her to stay unless it's too painful for her. He reasons that this is the first letter he has ever received from one of her parents, so it feels significant. Mahiru quietly sits back down, promising not to pry and leaving it up to him whether he wants to share the contents. Amane finally opens the letter and discovers that Asahi wants to meet him. Mahiru seems slightly bothered that Asahi wants to see Amane instead of her. Amane pats her head reassuringly, and Mahiru clarifies that she isn't upset, only confused by Asahi's reasoning. Amane points out that most fathers would naturally be interested in the boy dating their daughter, but Mahiru insists that Asahi is different. She doubts he truly cares about her very much. When Amane asks what he should do, Mahiru tells him he is free to decide for himself. She reassures him that Asahi is not the type of person to hurt others. Though she finds it strange to say such things about her own father, she leans closer and repeats that Amane may meet him if he wants. In the end, Amane decides to meet Asahi, who seems genuinely pleased that he came. Asahi politely greets him, recognizing him as the boy who bumped into him. Amane replies that Mahiru had told him a few things about him. Asahi quietly sets that information aside for the moment and admits he is surprised that Amane agreed to meet him. Amane honestly says he was curious about Asahi, though he believes Asahi should really be meeting Mahiru instead. Asahi agrees, but says he believes Mahiru doesn't want to see him. Growing uneasy, Asahi admits Amane probably has many questions for him, but insists they order food first. It offers to pay since he took up Amane's final day of summer break. Once their meals arrive, Amane insists they begin talking. Asahi reveals that he already knows Amane is Mahiru's boyfriend and asks how Mahiru has been doing. The question leaves Amane slightly uncomfortable, but he simply answers that she is doing fine. Asahi notices the coldness in his tone and comments on it, and Amane admits that his reaction is only natural given the situation. Truthfully, Amane feels deeply uneasy around him. Unlike Mahiru's mother, Sayo, whom he could openly confront, Asahi is difficult to read. Unable to understand his true intentions, Amane finally asks why he suddenly wants to reconnect with Mahiru after all this time. Asahi gives a faint smile, seemingly pleased that Amane genuinely cares for her. He reassures Amane that he has no intention of taking Mahiru away or interfering with her current life. Amane is surprised, since that still doesn't explain why Asahi appeared near their apartment. Asahi admits it is a long and complicated story, but simply says that he came because he wanted to check on her. He openly acknowledges that he abandoned her and practically lost the right to call himself her father. He also admits that both he and Sayo deeply scarred Mahiru emotionally. Asahi confesses that neither of them truly acted like parents to her, so he does not blame Mahiru for wanting nothing to do with them. Hearing this makes Amane's heart ache for Mahiru, because it took Asahi so long to finally want to be present in her life. Wanting Asahi to understand the extent of the damage they caused, Amane tells him that Mahiru once questioned why she had even been born. Asahi doesn't deny anything as Amane continues blaming him for Mahiru's low self-esteem. He tells Asahi that as a parent, he should have never neglected her in the first place. Parents were supposed to protect their children from this kind of pain. Still, Asahi cannot answer why he had done those things. Instead, he asks if Mahiru is happy right now. Rather than answer directly, Amane tells Asahi to ask Mahiru himself. Remembering all the times Mahiru had smiled beside him, he says that his goal is to make her happy. Asahi looks relieved by that answer. He bows his head toward Amane and asks if he can continue watching over Mahiru for him. Amane replies that even without permission, he already intended to stay by her side and make her happy. In the end, Asahi simply thanks him for everything. Amane returns to his apartment by sunset and finds Mahiru in the living room. He tells her that he ended up speaking with Asahi and reassures her that she has nothing to worry about. Taking a seat beside her, he asks if she wants to know what they talked about, but Mahiru says she does not really care about their conversation. Even so, Amane shares everything that happened. By the time he finishes, night has already fallen and Mahiru understands that Asahi had come to check on her after all. However, she quietly admits that it feels too late for him to make up for all the lost time. Amane says that Asahi at least gave him the impression that he truly cares about her. Mahiru is unsure because she does not really understand what it feels like to have parents who genuinely care. She explains that she was always a well-behaved child, yet nobody ever paid attention to her. Whenever she reached out for them, neither of them took her hand. At some point, she simply stopped trying to connect with them too. She stopped expecting anything from them to protect herself from disappointment. Now that Asahi is suddenly reaching out, she feels conflicted. Amane gently hugs her as she admits how painful it feels for Asahi to notice her this late. He asks what she plans to do now. Mahiru honestly says she does not know. She likes the life she has now, so if Asahi suddenly tries to become part of it again, she is afraid of how everything might change. Still, she asks Amane if it is strange for a daughter to feel that way. Amane tells her that every person and every situation is different, so he does not think there is an easy answer. But he understands why she feels conflicted and hurt, and he would never judge her for it. He tells Mahiru that whatever she decides, he will support her completely. Whenever the burden becomes too heavy, he wants her to lean on him and rely on him. Mahiru suddenly asks if he will truly stay by her side. When Amane immediately confirms it, she wraps her arms around him and quietly admits that she wants to stay with him tonight because she does not want to be alone. Amane gently promises that she is free to do whatever she wants and he will still remain by her side. Smiling softly, he asks if she wants to try sleeping over properly tonight. Mihiru answers by hugging him tighter, and Amane finds himself whispering reassuring words to comfort her. The next morning, Amane wakes up alone. Mihiru had returned to her apartment after calming down. When he enters the main room, he finds Mihiru already dressed and preparing breakfast. He asks if she managed to sleep properly, and Mihiru reassures him that she feels well rested. Before they head out, Mihiru suddenly asks if he forgot something. Amane is certain he did not until she lifts the tie in her hands. Only then does he realize he forgot to put one on. Mihiru fixes it neatly in place while lightly scolding him to look his best for the opening ceremony. Watching her fuss over him makes Amane smile fondly as he remarks how lucky he is to have her. After a little more playful flirting, the two finally leave hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future has in store for them. One morning, Chitose complains about the upcoming exams, though Amane does not really see the issue since exams are easy for him, and he even gets to go home early. Chitose tells him that he and Mihiru would never understand her struggles because they are both good students. She tries to get Yuta to agree with her, but Yuta admits he is actually thankful for the break from club activities during exams. Chitose immediately feels betrayed because all of her friends, including Itsuki, are apparently studying properly like responsible students. Mihiru returns to the classroom and apologizes for making everyone wait, but Amane tells her that Chitose was only complaining about exams. Mihiru brightens up and proudly shows a notebook she prepared filled with study strategies Chitose could use to help pass the exams. When Chitose praises her, Mihiru admits that Amane also helped organize the notes, making Chitose thank him as well. As payment, Chitose offers him photos of Mihiru instead. Chitose tells him he can choose one, though Amane thinks he wants both. Mihiru pouts at him, causing Amane to admit he was joking before saying he would just take one photo. Chitose becomes overjoyed and loudly declares that Amane really is crazy about Mihiru. Later at home, Mihiru asks if he actually accepted any of the photos. When Amane teases her about it, Mihiru threatens to put wasabi in his food, making him immediately confess that he did not take any. As they sit down for dinner, Mihiru admits that the photos are embarrassing because she does not think she looks cute in them. Amane disagrees, telling her he finds her attractive regardless of how embarrassing she thinks she looks. Trying to make a point, Mihiru asks how he would feel if she kept a photo of him making a silly face. Amane simply answers that as long as it is not inappropriate to show in public, he does not mind. Mihiru then brings up the photo of him wearing cat ears, and Amane immediately remembers the picture from their karaoke outing. To her surprise, he says he does not mind that one either. Mihiru suddenly feels guilty for taking the photo without permission, but the two of them soon laugh warmly over the memory together. Later that evening, Amane asks Mihiru what kind of reward she would want once the exams are over. Mihiru recalls that the last reward she requested was to let Amane rest on her lap. She then asks if there is anything he wants in return, but Amane answers that seeing her happy is enough for him. Mihiru becomes slightly annoyed and tells him that she wants to make him happy too. Even then, Amane insists he would rather do something for her. Mihiru shyly admits that she actually wants the old cushion in his room because it smells like him. Amane asks if she happens to like scents in that way, causing Mihiru to quickly explain that she only likes his scent because she loves him and finds it comforting. Amane imagines Mihiru hugging the pillow and points out that she does not really need a substitute for him. Mihiru quietly admits that she sometimes gets overwhelmed with him. When Amane asks what she means, she nervously explains that she simply finds everything about him attractive, making it difficult for her to relax. Amane gently pats her head, instantly calming her down. Once exams are finally over, Chitose loudly declares her freedom. She immediately invites Mihiru to visit a newly opened cafe together to celebrate. When Mihiru asks Amane for permission, he instantly grants it while casually claiming that he already has plans with Itsuki. Chitose becomes delighted and happily drags Mihiru away. Once the girls leave, Itsuki grows suspicious and asks Amane what these supposed plans are. Amane casually explains that Itsuki still owes him for their last meal and for the cat ear photo incident. While he admits he does not mind the picture, he at least wants a warning next time. At the burger shop, the two boys spend time catching up about life. Itsuki admits he is a little disappointed by how slowly Amane and Mihiru are progressing as a couple, though considering their personalities, he thinks it is probably for the best. Still, he warns Amane that Chitose will likely continue giving Mihiru romantic advice to speed up their relationship. Amane admits he is already aware of that possibility. By sunset, Amane notices that Mihiru seems troubled after returning home, so he immediately asks what kind of ideas Chitose planted in her head. Mihiru refuses to meet his eyes, making Amane lean close and whisper near her ear. The reaction is immediate, with Mihiru accusing him of being unfair because her ears are sensitive. Amane jokingly says he will make her talk one way or another, But after seeing her worried expression, he immediately takes it back and promises he will not force her to say anything. Even so, he gently tells her not to take everything Chitose says too seriously. Mihiru defends Chitose by pointing out that she actually has many good insights about relationships between boys and girls. When Amane asks for examples, Mihiru becomes too embarrassed to answer properly and instead insists that she will decide for herself whether Chitose's advice has value or not. Seeing Amane look unconvinced, Mihiru finally admits that they talked about ways to make a boyfriend fall even deeper in love, along with methods to keep him interested. Then, before Amane can respond, Mihiru suddenly pushes him onto the couch and confesses that she feels she has not been aggressive enough lately. Amane immediately blushes and asks if this was Chitose's idea. Mihiru admits she has genuinely been feeling lonely lately. Realizing he may have accidentally hurt her feelings, Amane gently pulls her down against him and apologizes for dismissing their conversations as meaningless. Still, he explains that he wants the two of them to move forward at their own pace without letting other people influence their relationship. He says they should enjoy what they have now instead of constantly worrying about how to keep each other interested in the future, because it only creates unnecessary tension between them. After saying everything, Amane awkwardly apologizes for sounding corny. She then admits it wasn't her intention to rush things. It's just that she's a little worried that Amane isn't interested in her in that way sometimes, and it was getting frustrating. Amane struggles to control himself, and when he does, he holds her and tells her that he's interested, and as a couple, they'll eventually have to talk about it. However, it doesn't mean either of them has to rush things, and it's clear that Mihiru is still a little scared. When Mihiru finally agrees with him, he asks if it's possible for her to get off him, but Mihiru decides to snuggle deeper and asks if she can stay on him longer. Unable to deny Mihiru, he allows it. The next day, Getsuki announces that they'll be discussing their activity for the school festival. In the end, they agree to do a maid cafe, which excites the guys because Mihiru will be in a maid uniform. Some are a little worried about what Amane would think, but they reassure themselves that Amane would probably enjoy seeing Mihiru in a maid outfit. In their usual burger joint, Yuta asks if Amane is alright, noticing he's been stiff in class the entire day. Amane admits he didn't like the idea that Mihiru would be put on display. However, since the girls managed to change it into a maid and butler cafe, he feels slightly better since it means not all the attention will go to Mihiru. He tells Yuta to do his best, though Yuta tells him that he will also likely be a butler. Yuta points out that there are benefits to being a butler since Amane can make sure Mihiru stays safe, and he's pretty sure that Mihiru would love to see Amane dressed as a butler. Yuta also tells him that since he changed his hairstyle, more girls have become interested in Amane, but he's sure Amane only has eyes for Mihiru. On their walk back home, Yuta shares that he's relieved people are more receptive to Amane and Mihiru's relationship. When Chitose and Itsuki were revealed as a couple, Chitose was bullied a lot and he admits to hating that happening to her or to anyone. He advises that during the cultural festival, Amane shouldn't be shy about showing Mihiru off, so guys will know that Mihiru is already taken. When Amane returns home, Mihiru motions to her lap and gestures for him to lie on it. Amane is shocked, so Mihiru explains that she knows Amane is not pleased with the cafe idea, but also knows that Amane wouldn't say anything against it either. So hopefully by resting on her lap, Amane can cheer up a little. When Amane finally allows himself to lie on her lap, he admits that he isn't too keen on other guys seeing Mihiru in a main outfit. He admits he'll be a little jealous because he wants her all to himself. Hearing that makes her heart flutter, and she admits she doesn't like the maid idea either. But it's what the class has decided and they can't do much about it. However, she tells him that she asked the class if Amane could be the first one to see her in a maid outfit. Mihiru shares that while their cafe might get a lot of customers, a maid can only really have one master. However, she gets embarrassed by her own words and pushes a pillow down on his face. Amane then gets a message from Shihoko expressing her excitement for the festival. Apparently, his parents are planning on visiting this year because he kept it from her last year. Mihiru feels a little left out since she has no one to invite, until Amane mentions inviting Koyuki, her housekeeper. Mihiru is surprised that Amane remembered what she told him about Koyuki, and he explains that he is really attentive to what she says. While Mihiru wants to invite Koyuki, she tells Amane it's no longer possible because Koyuki hurt her back. Amane considers meeting Koyuki someday because Koyuki is more of a parent to Mihiru than her actual parents are. This makes Mihiru's heart flutter when she hears him consider it, so much so that she struggles to contain her reaction. After a few days, their exam results are posted and Mihiru is at the top of their class. Amane congratulates her for all her hard work, and Mihiru also congratulates Amane for getting 5th place. However, Amane credits his score to her teaching him. For Amane, he needs to continue doing well in class so he won't embarrass her. When they return home, Amane brings out the cushion she wanted, but then Mihiru grows nervous and shyly asks if she can have a kiss as well. Amane smiles and sits next to her so they can kiss more easily. When they do, Mihiru suddenly grasps his arm, which makes Amane pull away. However, she shares that she actually wanted him to continue whatever happens after the kiss. Amane gets worried he might go too far and hugs her to control himself, asking if a hug would suffice. When Mihiru agrees, he begins nuzzling her neck, which makes Mihiru stop him because it tickles. Amane apologizes, saying he couldn't help himself because Mihiru smelled nice, and she shares that she used body milk to moisturize, since she doesn't want Amane to get disappointed if she has dry skin when he touches her. She boldly admits that she wants Amane to touch her and want her more. Amane is shocked by the admission, feeling his self-control slip again. He kisses her deeper this time, and when he pulls away, he notices how out of breath Mihiru looks, so he apologizes for surprising her like that. Mihiru asks why he just assumed she didn't like what he just did, because to her, it just shows how much he loves her, and it makes her heart feel full. However, she does ask him to warn her next time. Amane apologizes, but Mihiru reminds him not to. A troubled look crosses his face, and Mihiru gigbles a little, already aware that Amane plans on taking things slow again, but reminds him that they don't really have to worry about being too guarded with each other. She then asks if they can try kissing deeper one more time since she is prepared, and Amane holds her close so they can kiss again. After some time, they pull away, and Mihiru admits that she's at her limit today, and that she finally feels satisfied with her reward. As the festival approaches, Amane's class is working out all the details for their Maid and Butler cafe. Ayaka tries to get Amane to smile more naturally, but it turns out horribly. They try to brainstorm ideas for making his smile look less intimidating, and Itsuki chimes in that some girls in class think he is more appealing when he acts naturally around Mihiru, since he seems a lot kinder and more approachable. Ayaka sees the appeal, but because of Mihiru's concerned look, she tries reassuring Mihiru that she already has a boyfriend and that she's only interested in macho-looking men. Since it sounds like Amane is being called a wimp, Mihiru quickly tries to say that Amane is actually fairly muscular when shirtless. Amane ends up smiling at Mihiru, but tells her that she should probably say less because she'll only embarrass herself. Seeing the couple act sweetly together, the girls in class begin gushing over them. On another day, Ayaka announces that their costumes are finally complete, and that she got permission to use another classroom as a changing room. She then heads over to Amane and tells him to go ahead to the classroom, because Mihiru had requested that he be the first one to see her as a maid. Amane does what he is told, and once Mihiru allows him inside, he is shocked to see her in a modest maid outfit. Still, it looks stunning on her, and he is even at a loss for words as he stares at her. He admits that he worries his mood might get spoiled since he knows other people will be seeing her in the costume. Mihiru promises to pat his head if he can keep being a good boy for now. She admits she isn't exactly thrilled that people will see Amane in a butler outfit either, though Amane says no one is specifically coming to see him anyway. Mihiru gives him a questionable look and he asks what's wrong. She explains that ever since he changed how he looked, she noticed that other girls seem to be interested in him. Amane says he isn't aware of it, so Mihiru has to explain that the girls often talk among themselves, so she has become uneasy whenever she hears or thinks about it. Amane asks what kinds of things the girls say about him. She admits that the girls find him kind and gentlemanly, and that they wish he would like them so he would love only them. Amane explains that she doesn't have to worry because he only has eyes for Mihiru. He asks if Mihiru has been giving anyone mixed signals, and when she denies it, he tells her that neither of them has anything to worry about. Mihiru moves closer and tells him that they should both work through their jealousy together. However, she admits that she still won't like other girls having an interest in him, even if they show it openly. She then urges him to get changed because she also wants to see him in a butler outfit. Amane tells her to be patient, since the boys will have their turn soon. Later, Itsuki and Shidose compliment each other on their outfits, and Amane also receives compliments from the others. Then, Ayaka calls Mihiru over, telling Amane that Mihiru had been anxiously waiting for him. When Mihiru takes her time, Ayaka has to be the one to push her toward Amane, deciding they need to get comfortable around each other in costume, since their shifts are together. Mihiru shyly admits that he looks nice, a lot different from how he usually does. Not wanting to offend him, she explains that he looks more mature than usual. Amane thinks it's because he usually doesn't dress up nicely, and Mihiru tells him that it's a nice change of pace. All the girls quickly agree with her. During rehearsals, the boys cannot handle the sweetness of Mihiru's smile and greeting. Amane apologizes on her behalf, but now they are left with the problem of figuring out how to make things work since everyone cannot handle how cute Mihiru is. Amane tells Ayaka that he is still uncomfortable with how Mihiru has to smile at other men. Ayaka smiles and teases him about how madly in love he is with Mihiru, but then she tells him that it's actually a good and admirable trait because it shows that he truly loves her, and that most girls would appreciate that. She makes sure to add that she isn't falling in love with him, pointing out that Mihiru has been glaring at them every time they interact. Meanwhile, Yu becomes very popular, and a lot of their female classmates line up to help him rehearse. Amane asks Ayaka about her boyfriend, whom she reveals is someone from a different class. She shares that they've been friends since childhood and that he has great muscles, making him her ideal type. She decides to break up the crowd around Yuda. Mahiru takes the opportunity to approach Amane again and shyly asks if she gets to be his first customer. The girls are amazed when Amane is able to smoothly slip into the role of a butler for Mahiru. Even Mahiru grows nervous from all the attention. He leads her to a seat and Mahiru is too stunned to react properly. When she is eventually seated, the girls give him passing marks and Ayaka tells him that he looked very handsome while attending to Mahiru. She asks if he'd consider working at the coffee shop where she works, and he promises to give it some thought. Ayaka tells him to go to Mahiru since she still needs to check on the rehearsals of the others. When he returns to the table with Mahiru, Chitose is quick to tease them since Mahiru had such a huge reaction toward Amane. Mahiru isn't too thrilled because she knows he'll be acting that way toward everyone. Amane asks if Mahiru finds him handsome and she blushes before quietly agreeing. Chitose notices that Mahiru acting shy and cute has an even bigger effect on people, so she thinks that the power couple can attract plenty of customers during the festival, though the comment doesn't please Amane. This makes him realize that during the actual festival, Mahiru will probably be extremely popular. On opening day, Itsuki is the one to give a speech before the class opens shop. He tells everyone to make this their best school festival yet. Mahiru and Amane quietly promise each other that they'll work hard as well. The class is easily kept busy since Mahiru can draw a crowd, but the boys notice that Amane is actually doing really well with the female customers too. He brings orders to Kazuya, who is working as kitchen staff, and Kazuya comments that it seems the maids and butlers are much busier than the kitchen team. Makoto enters with new orders, and when Kazuya compliments him, he feels a little put off because he was hoping to work in the kitchen staff this year. Kazuya tells Amane that whenever Mahiru enters to give orders, she seems unhappy. Amane complains that he still has customers to serve, but Kazuya and Makoto tell him that his lack of attention toward her isn't really the issue. On the service floor, Mahiru is dealing with two persistent customers who are trying to invite her to talk with them longer and even spend the later parts of the festival with them. Amane watches the interaction from afar, seeing if he needs to step in. Yuto approaches him and reassures him that he does not need to worry too much since everyone is keeping an eye on Mahiru and will step in when the situation calls for it. It turns out that he, along with everyone else in class, loves seeing Amane and Mahiru together and wants to make sure no one gets between them. Amane feels uneasy that their classmates are watching them so closely, but Yuta points out that it isn't hard for anyone to see how in love they are in public. Suddenly, Amane steps forward and stops a customer from touching Mahiru before the man is let out. He then apologizes to the other customers for the sudden commotion. He quietly whispers to Mahiru to take her break since their shift is about to finish anyway. Mahiru heads to the back, and when Amane finishes his shift, he goes to check on her. Mahiru confirms that she is fine, and Amane drapes his jacket over her to cover most of the costume since it stands out too much. Mahiru takes a moment to sniff the jacket, causing Amane to get a little embarrassed. As they walk around, they discuss what they should eat. Ayaka notices them and immediately introduces them to her boyfriend, Soji. She begins gushing about how good he looks shirtless, which makes Mahiru argue that Amane looks amazing shirtless as well. Amane wonders why they are suddenly turning it into a competition. Later, Mahiru and Amane spot a haunted house attraction, which makes Amane suggest they try it out. However, after remembering that Mahiru is scared of horror movies, he decides it's probably best if they don't go in. Mahiru tries to act brave and insists that haunted houses and horror movies do not scare her at all. Amane tells her that she should stop bluffing, otherwise they'll end up watching horror movies together next time. Mahiru tries to say that she loves the idea, even though Amane knows she probably wouldn't be able to sleep afterwards. Mahiru claims she'll be fine, but says Amane would need to watch over her just in case of emergencies. Amane jokingly claims to be scarier than a ghost, which Mahiru quickly argues against, pointing out that they have already slept together before. The moment she says it, she realizes how wrong it sounded and hurriedly tries to explain that she did not mean it in a strange way, before blaming the direction of the conversation on Amane. Amane denies the accusation, saying that he only wanted to go into the haunted house because he wanted to see Mahiru get scared. In the end, they go into the haunted house anyway, and Mahiru ends up completely terrified. During their walk, Daiki calls out to Amane, and Amane has to explain that Daiki is Itsuki's father. First, Daiki compliments Amane's change in appearance, saying that Amane seems to carry himself with much more confidence than before. He then grows curious about Mahiru, so Amane introduces her as his girlfriend. When Mahiru bows and greets him respectfully, Daiki is pleased by how well-mannered she is. He shares that he had originally come to the school to visit their cafe, but decided against it since he did not want to ruin the class's mood. He bids the two of them farewell before leaving. Mahiru asks if Daiki still does not like Chitose, and Amane tells her that there has not been much progress in their relationship. While he wants Chitose to get along with Daiki, he feels there is very little they can do to help. Mahiru feels a bit bad that Chitose is not accepted, because she believes that Chitose and Itsuki make a really great couple. When they return to their classroom, they are greeted by the couple and Chitose quickly whisks Mahiru away for a chat. Amane hangs back a little and tells Itsuki that they ran into Daiki earlier. However, Daiki has not mentioned Chidose. Itsuki admits that he was the one who invited Daiki, but then tells Amane that it probably worked out for the best that Daiki chose not to enter the cafe since Chidose likely would not have been comfortable. Amane and Mihiru spend the rest of their break together in their classroom. Amane mentions that their cafe is doing well and that both of them received a lot of compliments today. Mihiru asks if he thinks all the girls look cute dressed up. Amane tells her that they do, but Mihiru is the only one whose cuteness he truly adores. Mihiru feels her heart flutter and admits that she feels bad for being so insecure sometimes. Amane tells her that she can always ask him, and he'll make sure to shower her with affection until she is fully convinced. She blames Amane for always playing with her heart, so the next time he teases her, she plans on teasing him back. However, Amane admits that he would actually like Mihiru to tease him back. This upsets Mihiru, so she steals some of his food instead, but that only makes Amane look at her fondly. Later, they watch the bands perform in the gymnasium and are shocked to see Yuta playing with his own band. They never even knew Yuta was in one and realize that he really can do almost anything. With that, they end their first day of the festival on a good note. On the second day of the festival, Shudo and Shihoko visit the school. Amane isn't too thrilled because they had requested that he and Mihiru be the ones to show them around. As they walk around the school, Shihoko continues to tease Amane about his relationship with Mihiru, which embarrasses him. First, they visit the handcraft club where the club has put several items up for sale. Ayaka is there and is surprised by how Amane's parents look and act since they are different from Amane. Amane says that he assumed Ayaka would be a sports manager, and Ayaka admits she would have liked the free pass to view muscles, but Soji would complain about her drooling over other kids at school. Amane has a feeling that Soji is more concerned about Ayaka's reputation than being jealous. Ayaka argues that she's actually very careful about who she chooses to ogle. She then mentions that she likes her club because it allows her to make handmade clothes for Soji. It's also an opportunity for her to take his measurements. She then tells Amane that if he would let Mihiru take his measurements, she is sure Mihiru would make handmade clothes for him as well. Amane begs her not to plant weird ideas in Mihiru's head. Mihiru gets curious about their conversation, so Ayaka says that she is sure Mihiru would jump at the chance to see Amane without clothes. Mihiru shyly admits she isn't opposed to the idea. However, she becomes embarrassed as she begins imagining it, surprising both Amane and Ayaka. Next, Amane's parents meet Chidose and Itsuki. Shihoko is thrilled that Chidose is also a fan of Mihiru, while Shudo thanks Itsuki for being a good friend to Amane. Amane feels a little shy about the interaction, but does not deny that Chidose and Itsuki have helped him a lot since they became friends. Itsuki makes fun of how shy he is being, and the two begin to banter. They then see Daiki approaching them through the crowd. To avoid the confrontation, Itsuki tells Chidose that they shouldn't have lunch now, complaining that he doesn't want to work on an empty stomach. Chidose agrees since she has not seen Daiki yet. They excuse themselves and Itsuki hurriedly drags Chidose away. When Daiki approaches the group, he is aware that he had scared Itsuki away. Amane awkwardly introduces Daiki to his parents and Shudo thanks him for looking after Amane. Amane attempts to explain the situation with Itsuki, but Daiki acknowledges that the hostility is his own fault since he has not been friendly toward Chidose. He then mentions that Mihiru seems to get along well with Shudo and Shihoko, who definitely express that they want a good relationship with her. They mention how they already view her as a daughter and want to continue showering her with affection. Daiki seems saddened and tells them that with someone like Mihiru, they have nothing to worry about. Shihoko mentions how much they like Amane's choice of partner. Daiki says that he envies them since he does not have the same trust in Itsuki. He says that, in his case, he feels Itsuki lacks the maturity that Amane possesses. Shihoko tells Daiki that from what they know about Itsuki, he is a very caring and responsible person. Shihoko reasons that she can understand how, as a parent, it can be jarring when it comes to their children's partners. She also mentions that boys tend to seek independence much earlier. She tells Daiki that Itsuki is an amazing person and that Daiki should be proud of how he raised him. Shudo also tells him that even if he thinks Itsuki is going down the wrong path, parents should not push too hard because he might end up resenting Daiki in the future. Amane also adds that Chidose is actually a good person and has been working hard to be accepted by him. While he is aware that he cannot force Daiki to change his opinion of Chidose, he hopes Daiki will at least watch her more closely before making a final judgment. Daiki finally tells them that he is thankful to Amane for being a good friend to Itsuki. However, he cannot say that Chidose has been a good influence on him. Still, he promises Amane that he will not drive Chidose away. Before he leaves, he asks Amane to watch over Itsuki for him. Later, in an empty classroom, Mihiru talks to Amane about how much he defends Itsuki and Chidose despite constantly teasing them. Amane mentions that it's only natural because Chidose and Itsuki are his friends. Mihiru mentions that she was really taken by surprise earlier. Amane is at least happy that Mihiru finds it entertaining, but he mentions that he does not plan to gloat about helping Itsuki and Chidose. Amane also admits to Mihiru that he understands Daiki's worries. Itsuki's family is very rich, and his older brother is already an adult. Since Itsuki is not the family heir, he wants to have his own freedom. So Amane feels Itsuki thinks that Daiki has no place telling him who he should date. Mihiru mentions that she actually envies Itsuki a little. She knows that Daiki is concerned about his relationship because he cares. To her, that is one way a parent can express their love. Amane looks at her and realizes why she envies Itsuki. However, Mihiru tells him not to worry about her because she has already stopped expecting things from her parents. She also has no plans to let them back into her life, even if they try to reach out to her. Amane hugs her and tells her that she can now feel a parent's love through his parents. He even adds that his parents once told him that their love is wasted on him. Mihiru holds him as well, and Amane reminds her that she is loved. During Mihiru and Amane's shift at the cafe, Shihoko is delighted by how cute Mihiru looks in her maid costume. However, Amane is not too pleased with all the coddling, so he tells Shihoko to refrain from touching Mihiru too much. Ayaka reminds him to keep his voice down. Shihoko tells Amane that he probably wants to keep Mihiru all to himself, but Amane replies that it's a shop rule not to touch any of the maids. Still, Shihoko insists that it should be fine for her to touch Mihiru because she is her mother. Amane reminds her that she is not yet Mihiru's mother. Amane urges them to stop since he and Mihiru have customers to attend to. His parents agree and get seated by Amane, who presents them with the menu. They ask for Amane's suggestions, and he recommends either the A set or the C set. Shihoko asks if the maids are available to go, but Amane reminds her that they are only running a regular cafe. Shihoko pouts, pointing out that Amane gets to go home with Mihiru. Amane isn't comfortable with where the conversation is going, but he is surprised when Yuta appears to serve his parents water. Yuta also takes the opportunity to praise Shihoko's beauty. Shihoko gushes over the attention, though she admits that Yuta still cannot compete with Shudo. She also thanks him for being a friend to Amane, mentioning how difficult it must be since Amane isn't the most likable person. However, Yuta charmingly tells her that Amane has gotten better, and he thinks it is due to Mihiru's influence. Amane can't take it anymore and pushes Yuta away. Yuta argues that it was his chance to compliment him, and if he didn't do it directly, Amane would have brushed it off. Still, Amane feels embarrassed by it and pleads with him to do it either in private or when his parents are not around. Yuta gives him a charming smile and tells Amane that he is happy they can rely on each other as friends. Shudo comments on how close they seem, and Yuta decides to take his leave. Shudo admits to Amane that they were worried at first that he wasn't adjusting well, but now he seems to be mingling with his classmates. And from what he can observe, people are also supporting Amane's relationship with Mihiru. Amane gives them an unimpressed look and says that his class is only acting that way because they are present. By sunset, the PA system announces that the festival shops will now be closed. Amane and a few of his classmates decide to celebrate a little in a karaoke room since it concludes the work they had to do for the festival. They praise Ayaka, who says the credit goes to her boss for lending them all the costumes. Itsuki voices that they should all give him something as thanks, which surprises Chitose since he usually isn't too generous. Though Itsuki says that they need to be polite and even he needs to be serious sometimes. He jokes that he does it about twice a year. The couple then urges Amane to join them since he was only observing them from the wall. Amane agrees and moves closer, and they also tell Mihiru to move closer. Mihiru refuses since she doesn't really want to sing, which makes Chitose wonder if Mihiru is only being shy because she has a small repertoire. She tries to ask the other guys, but Makoto and Kazuya both don't really have a strong repertoire of music either. Then Itsuki mentions Yuta's concert, wondering aloud why he didn't bother telling them that he was going to perform. Makoto and Kazuya predict that Yuta probably didn't want people talking about him, especially his classmates. However, Itsuki wants to see Yuta in the spotlight. So to make up for not telling them, Yuta has to give them a private performance. Yuta agrees on the condition that Amane sings with him. Mihiru is surprised because this would be the first time she would hear Amane sing in front of a crowd. He ends up going to the front with Yuta, swearing that he'll make Yuta pay for this someday. Chitose is the one who punches in the song, and thankfully, once it starts playing, it's something both Yuta and Amane know. Later, Itsuki and Amane are refilling drinks, so Itsuki asks Amane if Daiki had said anything about him and Chitose. Amane is honest and says that nothing bad was said, as most of the conversation was Daiki learning about his parents. Itsuki feels relieved, but he admits that he actually knows the reason why Daiki is so against him dating Chitose. For the first time, Itsuki decides to open up about his family problems with Amane. He talks about how he has an older brother who is 8 years older than him. His brother was responsible but then suddenly became rebellious in his 20s. Instead of taking over the family business, his brother decided to elope with a woman he was in love with. Eventually, things got better as his older brother and Daiki are now on good terms, and Daiki is once again set to take over the business. However, because his brother had left, everything fell onto Itsuki's shoulders while he was gone. When Itsuki introduced Chitose for the first time, Daiki remembered the incident and automatically disliked Chitose. Itsuki also mentions one incident where he got hurt protecting Chitose. During middle school, Chitose was bullied by one of their seniors in the track club who happened to have a crush on Itsuki. She was pushed down the stairs, and it was Itsuki who broke her fall. Though Itsuki was not injured too badly, Daiki still blamed Chitose for getting him caught up in her own problems. Itsuki admits he hasn't told any of this to Chitose for fear that she might blame herself. Itsuki makes Amane promise not to tell Chitose, saying that they are best friends. When Amane gives Itsuki a tired smile, Itsuki is surprised that Amane isn't denying the fact that they are best friends. Back in Amane's apartment, Mihiru tells Amane that she overheard some of their classmates crushing on him. She also says that she heard it a lot in their cafe, as well as customers would often talk about how Amane is their type. She admits feeling a little frustrated today, especially whenever Amane would smile at customers. She scoots closer to him as she says this, so Amane pats her head, admitting that he has the same frustrations as her. He cups her face and says that he only wants to see Mihiru because he belongs only to her. Now, with the school festival behind them, they can go back to having just each other. They kiss after the long day and embrace. When they pull away, Amane is shocked to see that Mihiru has tears in her eyes. Burying her face in his clothes, she asks if she can stay the night. Amane tries to confirm what Mihiru really wants, so she clarifies that she really wants to spend the evening with him because she cannot get enough of him. Having to share his attention made her crave his focus. Amane tells Mihiru that what they are about to do sounds like a bad idea. Mihiru is confused and reasons that it's normal for couples to want to spend the night together, and that they've already spent an evening together when they were in his hometown. She begins to feel insecure and wonders if Amane does not want the same thing she wants. Amane reasons that he does, but they have only been dating for a few months. He says he wants to spend every evening together, but he worries that he might end up hurting Mihiru if she stays over too long. He urges Mihiru to be more aware of what he can do. Mihiru says she does, and even if he makes advances, she trusts that Amane can take responsibility, so the only thing she wants to ask of him is to take care of her. This makes Amane worry about whether he can resist her. He decides to suggest that Mihiru still take a bath at her place since he does not have her usual materials in his apartment. He has to clarify that he did not mean that both of them should shower together. Mihiru asks if his parents take baths together. When Amane confirms this, she asks if it's okay for them to try taking a bath together. However, since she's a little embarrassed about it, she suggests they do it while wearing swimsuits. A little while later, Amane waits for Mihiru in his bathroom. When she enters, he is shocked to see her in a black two-piece swimsuit and realizes that this is probably the swimsuit Chitose was talking about before. Because Amane was not saying anything, Mihiru thinks she looks strange. He has to clarify that he is just feeling overwhelmed. This makes Mihiru tell him that this is precisely why she didn't want to wear it at the pool, since she didn't want others to look at her weirdly. However, she still decided to buy the swimsuit because Chitose insisted it would be good since Amane would give in. Amane feels a little annoyed with Chitose because now he will have a hard time resisting Mihiru. To keep his mind off things, he suggests they start by washing their hair. Mihiru beams and tells him to sit down because she wants to try washing his hair herself. She notices that as she detangles it before washing, Amane seems to relax under her care. Seeing that he is enjoying her care, she promises to be careful and not to disappoint him. She explains what she is doing to Amane's hair, mentioning that it's what she does to maintain her own hair. Amane notes that Mihiru's hair always looks beautiful, and because it is long, it must mean she spends a lot of time taking care of it. She reasons that she always does her best to make herself look nice because she likes hearing compliments about it the most. Mihiru starts the water so she can rinse his hair and lightly scolds Amane for being lazy with his hair care routine. He decides to tease her by saying that if they make taking a bath together a regular thing, then he will naturally get better at taking care of his hair. Mihiru looks a little annoyed, explaining that she did not appreciate how casually he said that. However, she quickly gets over it and announces that she will be washing the rest of him next. She shyly asks him to wash his front because the back is all she can handle for now. As she does so, she mentions that Amane has really broad shoulders. Though Amane denies it, she feels they are much broader than hers because she has leaned on them countless times. She asks Amane if he still remembers the time she twisted her ankle and he had to carry her. She admits how overjoyed she was when Amane showed up to help because she hadn't known what to do at that moment. She muses that Amane always seems to appear at the right moment for her. She hugs him from behind and admits that she feels like Amane will always be there for her. Amane smiles and confirms that he will always be there to carry her when things become too much. But he jokes that he would appreciate it if she let him go now because it's hard for him to focus on the seriousness of their conversation. Mihiru ignores his request but promises to share the burden since they are a team. She then mentions that Chitose had told her that Amane would get excited if she did this. This makes Amane curse Chitose for planting weird ideas into Mihiru's head. As the couple relaxes in the bathtub, Mihiru worries that Amane is a little put off by her since she's been asking him to try many new things lately. She also mentions how it mostly turns awkward for them in the end. Amane tells her that it doesn't bother him because he knows Mihiru is trying her best to show affection to him. Mihiru is upset that Amane doesn't seem to understand her intentions during those moments, but Amane explains that he's always trying to hold himself back because he might end up doing something that both of them would regret. Mihiru weakly argues that he's doing a good job resisting at the moment. However, Amane lightly tells her that he isn't and that she can check for herself. Mihiru looks down to check, and it seems as though Amane is telling the truth. He reassures her that he really does want to do all sorts of things with her. He begins patting and petting her, and Mihiru looks back at him. Her eyes invite him for a kiss. So he tells her that he thinks kissing is a bad idea since Mihiru might pass out. She pouts at the mention and then shyly reopens their topic from before their bath. She asks if they can at least kiss after they finish bathing. Amane suddenly pulls her back against his chest and tells her that she is adorable and that he was already thinking of doing that even if she had not asked him. So he tells her to prepare for his attention once they are done. She feels embarrassed and calls him mean when he refuses to forget what she just said. Because of his teasing, she pulls away from him and pouts at him from the other end of the tub. Once they are done, Mihiru takes time to admire the toy cat on his desk. She is thankful that Amane is taking care of all the things she has given him. Amane asks why Mihiru isn't bringing Mr. Bear. She reasons that she doesn't have to because she has Amane to hold tonight. Amane then becomes conscious of the toy cat's eyes on them, so he quickly throws a cloth over it. He tries to reason that he is worried about being watched, and Mihiru finds it adorable. Amane does not appreciate the teasing, so he tells Mihiru that she is the one who snuggles with Mr. Bear every night. Later, they get ready for bed and decide to pick up where they left off in the bath. They kiss chastely, and Mihiru buries her head in his chest after the kiss. She asks if he is willing to do something else as well. Amane admits that he really wants her, but he is aware that he isn't old enough to take responsibility. He also admits that he would hate it if it caused Mihiru any pain. Though he reassures her that he is fully committed to her, Mihiru tells him that he does not have to explain himself anymore because she is aware how deep his love for her is and how much he respects her. She feels truly grateful that someone like Amane loves her. She tells him that she loves him and kisses him to show her affection. After they pull away, Amane kisses her again and asks her to be a little more patient with him since he wants to be more mature about everything first. Until then, they promise to take care of each other to the best of their ability. Amane then asks if he can ask a stupid question. When Mihiru tells him that she will listen to any of his requests, he tentatively asks if he can hold her longer. Mihiru blushes and asks him to be gentle with her. In the morning, Mihiru wakes him up so he can eat breakfast. Amane is baffled by the huge spread that Mihiru has made for him. Amane then looks at Mihiru, noticing the red mark on her neck. He reminds her to cover it up, and Mihiru suddenly remembers the hickey on her neck and gets embarrassed. Amane thanks his self-restraint for not going any further than marking her neck. Mihiru reminds him to wash up and cool his head. However, Amane notes that Mihiru might actually need to cool off more than he does at the moment. Amane then takes his time admiring her and tells her that it feels nice when she sort of smells like him. Later, Shihoko and Shudo meet them at the front of the apartment, and Shihoko wastes no time showing how much she'd miss Mihiru. Amane complains that it has only been a day, but Shihoko is making it seem as though they haven't seen each other for a month. Amane urges Mihiru to just show Shihoko away if it becomes too much for her. Mihiru says she actually appreciates the attention that Shihoko is giving her. Shihoko tells Amane that he should act more like Mihiru, a good child. She then goes on about how he was when he was younger and how angelic he used to be. She wonders why he grew up to be such a gloomy individual. Amane then asks how his parents managed to get the same days off. Shihoko proudly shares that she finished a project earlier than expected and managed to catch a break. Meanwhile, Shudo admits that he was just lucky. Still, Amane questions the reason for their visit. Shihoko reasons that it's always just her and Shudo at home, so they wanted to visit both Amane and Mihiru. She then remembers something and asks Amane if she can spend some time with Mihiru. Mihiru agrees, so Shihoko mentions that the boys can spend time together while they are out since Shudo had wanted to talk to Amane. Amane and Shudo decide to head back to the apartment, and Shudo admits that Shihoko is actually a lonely and needy person. He shares that after Amane left for high school, Shihoko became very lonely. She only manages to keep it together because she is an adult. As a mother, Shihoko also knows that she needs to allow Amane to grow independently. Shudo tells Amane that they both want him to be happy and healthy while living his own life because that is the greatest wish of parents. Shudo then proceeds to tell Amane that he no longer has to worry about the cost. When Amane looks confused, Shudo explains that it is clear that Amane and Mihiru are about ready to take the next step in their relationship. He is aware that Amane is already serious about Mihiru and shares that he was the same way, even admitting that Shihoko is his first love as well. He tells Amane that he knows Amane is already thinking about his future with Mihiru, and is aware that he cannot provide for her at the moment, which he commends since it is a smart thought process. Amane admits that he is planning on asking Mihiru eventually, but there are things he wants to figure out before asking the big question. Shudo shares that while it is admirable, he thinks it's too much for the couple to handle alone, so he reminds Amane that he has parents he can lean on too. Amane feels that it's something he shouldn't ask of them. However, Shudo insists that time is very important to a young woman, and that a wedding is something they should feel free to ask for help with because he and Shihoko are more than willing to contribute. He reminds Amane that he will not force him to accept their help, but they want to celebrate with them if they are allowed to and help fill the gap left by Mihiru's parents as well. They want to be good parents while they still can because they feel Amane became independent very quickly. As he tries to insist that they can help, Amane can't help but stare at Shudo's wedding ring, silently vowing to get a job soon so he can start saving up. One morning, Amane and Mihiru discuss why he suddenly wants a part-time job. Amane explains that there is something he really wants to buy. The previous night, he contacted Ayaka to ask if she could help him get a part-time job. Ayaka agreed but was curious about why he needed one. Amane told her on the condition that she keep it secret. He admitted that he wanted to buy a ring for Mihiru next year. In the present, Amane reassures Mihiru that he has no intention of letting his grades suffer. Mihiru says she respects his decision, but she admits she will feel lonely because they will have less time together. Amane promises to spend every day off with her, making Mihiru feel special because it shows that he always puts her first. He says it is only natural since Mihiru is the most important person in his life. At school, Amane learns that Shihoko will be joining Mihiru and Chitose later. Wondering why Shihoko has to come along, he listens as Mihiru explains that Shihoko wants to talk to Chitose. Amane believes Shihoko will only fill Chitose's head with ideas, so he asks Mihiru to stop them if necessary. Itsuki calls Amane over for a chat. Amane is stunned when Itsuki bluntly asks whether he and Mihiru have crossed the finish line. His reaction draws attention from nearby classmates. Itsuki explains that he only assumes so because Mihiru seems different, and the atmosphere between them feels more intimate. Amane admits that something happened the previous night, but insists they did not go far. He explains that he and Mihiru promised to wait until he can take responsibility. Since he intends to spend the rest of his life with her, there is no reason to rush. Their conversation is interrupted when Ayaka approaches. She informs Amane that her aunt is willing to hire him and only needs to know when he can come in for an interview. Amane thanks her for the favor, and Ayaka replies that she is always happy to help a friend. After she leaves, Itsuki remarks that Amane is already preparing for a future with Mihiru. Amane explains that his parents have offered to pay for the wedding ceremony, but he wants to buy the ring himself. Itsuki understands, though he complains that Amane never asked for his help. Later, Amane talks about it with Chitose. She understands why Itsuki is upset. She points out that it is very much like Amane to seek advice from other people. Chitose believes Itsuki takes pride in being a dependable friend, so he genuinely wants to help. She also points out that Amane helped Itsuki through many things in the past, which is why Itsuki feels strongly about supporting him. Amane argues that he is the one who owes Itsuki because Itsuki has done so much for him. Chitose says that Amane still has a few things he needs to work on. Sometimes his actions make Itsuki feel as though he is being pushed away. She admits there has been improvement, and because Amane understands Itsuki much better now, he should not hesitate to ask him for help. She adds that he can always rely on her as well. Looking at her expression, Amane can tell that Chitose is also a little upset. She admits that she is because they've been friends for more than a year, and he does not ask for her help. Amane apologizes and promises to be more considerate. Chitose teases that they had better be kept informed about his plans, otherwise they might accidentally let the secret slip to Mihiru. Even so, she is happy that Amane is serious about his future with Mihiru. She asks whether he has loved Mihiru from the very beginning. Amane replies that it does not matter when it started. What matters is how much he loves her now and how certain he is that he wants to stay by her side. He adds that he appreciates all the support they have given him. Chitose says that helping him is only natural, especially when it will make Mihiru happy. Still, she jokingly reminds him that he dropped a rank in her friendship standings for keeping secrets from her. She quickly assures him that she is kidding. Both Mihiru and Amane are precious friends to her, and she genuinely wants their relationship to succeed. Later that evening, Shudo cooks dinner for himself and Amane while the girls are out together. Although Amane is capable of cooking on his own, Shudo is grateful for the opportunity to spend time with him. When the girls finally return, Amane is surprised by the number of shopping bags they brought. Shihoko assures him that they bought something for him as well. Most of the clothes and cute accessories are for Mihiru, but she explains that Mihiru also picked out something for Amane. Amane can only hope it is nothing strange. The next day, Amane tells Itsuki about it. Curious, Itsuki demands to know what Mihiru bought. Amane admits that Mihiru bought him a cat pajama costume. Itsuki immediately bursts out laughing. Amane explains that he's okay with it because Mihiru bought herself a matching bunny costume. That only makes Itsuki want a picture even more. Amane quickly refuses, saying that he asked Mihiru not to take any photos. Itsuki tries to comfort him by saying that he is probably adorable in the outfit. The girls notice their interaction and comment on how close the two friends seem. During the weekend, Ayaka takes Amane to her aunt's cafe. Amane has a feeling the cafe is not somewhere high schoolers go to. Ayaka explains that the cafe mainly attracts older customers. She could not recommend her own workplace because too many younger people visit there and Mihiru probably would not appreciate that. She decided her aunt's cafe would be a better fit. It would also allow Amane to work with Soji. After Amane asked for help finding a job, Ayaka specifically contacted the cafe where Soji works because she thought they would get along well. Amane agrees that working with someone from school would be reassuring, though he wonders why Ayaka does not work there as well. When they enter the cafe, they are greeted by Ayaka's aunt Fumika. After they sit down, Fumika jokingly complains that Ayaka never visits when Soji is around. She says she would much rather have the two of them working together because she loves couples. Ayaka mutters that this is exactly why she does not want to work there. Fumika then turns her attention to Amane and asks if he is the student looking for a job. Ayaka finally introduces Fumika and Amane to each other. Amane politely greets her and Fumika says she would be happy to help. She explains that she trusts Ayaka's judgment, so she doubts Amane will cause any trouble. However, she is curious about his relationship with Ayaka. Amane explains that they are classmates, and that Ayaka is a close friend of his girlfriend. This immediately puts Fumika at ease because she likes the idea of Ayaka and Soji together. Amane reassures her that he and Mihiru are fully committed to each other. Fumika's eyes sparkle at his answer, finding his devotion romantic. She asks if that is the reason he wants a job. When Amane admits that he is saving up to buy a ring, Fumika grabs his hands and immediately agrees to hire him. Ayaka panics and reminds her aunt not to pry too deeply into Amane's personal life. Fumika claims she is not prying. She simply wants to hear more about their relationship. Ayaka points out that Fumika is already mixing business with pleasure. Confused by the phrase, Amane learns that the cafe is not Fumika's only occupation, as she is also a successful author and does not really need the cafe. Fumika proudly insists that she is a responsible owner and that nobody needs to worry about the business failing. Ayaka quickly reminds her to pay Amane a proper hourly wage. Later that evening, Mihiru asks how the interview went. Amane replies that Fumika seemed to like him, so he was hired. Mihiru says she never doubted that he would get the job, but she is curious about what kind of person Fumika is. Amane settles on calling her an eccentric older sister type. He adds that Fumika is very supportive of young couples and spent most of the interview asking about his relationship with Mihiru. Mihiru explains that she was concerned that Fumika might develop feelings for him. Amane gently pats her head and assures her that even if that happened, those feelings would never be returned. He promises that he would quit immediately if that were to happen. Mihiru quickly tells him that she is not asking him to do that. Still, Amane promises that if working there ever makes her uncomfortable, he will leave. Hearing that, Mihiru suddenly grabs his arm, declares that she loves him, and buries her face in his chest. Later, Mihiru remarks that things seem to have calmed down. Amane points out that his parents have already gone home. He also mentions that Mihiru seems to enjoy spending time with Shihoko. Mihiru happily agrees because she gets to hear stories about Amane's childhood. Amane immediately pales and asks what stories she has heard. He feels okay after hearing that they are some of his less embarrassing stories. Mihiru enjoys hearing these stories because she has very few stories from her childhood to share. Still, she tells Amane not to worry about her. She loves the life she is now and feels fulfilled being with him. She adds that she was a very quiet child, unlike Amane, who apparently caused plenty of trouble. Amane admits that she has a point because he cannot imagine Mihiru acting like a tomboy. At the same time, he finds himself wanting to see that side of her. He feels he can if they somehow have a daughter together. Mihiru suddenly confesses that she was not actually a particularly good child. She only behaved well because she wanted people to praise her. Koyuki constantly told her she was cute and wonderful. Because of that, Mihiru feels that her childhood was not entirely unhappy. She also believes that everything she experienced eventually led her to Amane, which is why she is content with her life now. The two share a kiss to reaffirm their feelings. Afterward, Amane reminds her that once work begins, he will be coming home late on weekdays. He wants her to eat dinner without waiting for him. Mihiru refuses, insisting that she'll wait for him. On his first day at work, Soji tells Amane that the uniform suits him. He mentions that Mihiru would probably enjoy seeing him dressed like that. Amane wonders if Ayaka likes Soji's uniform as well. Soji replies that Ayaka prefers seeing him without clothes. Later, Amane makes sure to properly greet Fumika and thank her for hiring him. Fumika decides it is the perfect opportunity to introduce him to the rest of the staff. One of the employees, Rino, immediately walks up and invades his personal space. Another employee, Daichi, quickly pulls her back so they can introduce themselves properly. Rino complains about being treated like a child, but eventually introduces herself and tells Amane that he can come to her whenever he needs help. Once work begins, Amane adapts surprisingly well. He serves customers, gets along with his coworkers, and even learns how to operate various tools. When he returns home, Mihiru rushes over to greet him. Her attempt to hide how lonely she felt only amuses him. Later, Mihiru asks whether he wants to bathe first or eat dinner. Thinking she may be hungry, Amane chooses dinner. Mihiru brightens and eagerly announces that she made rolled omelets one of his favorite dishes. Amane replies that what makes them special is the fact that she made them for him. Mihiru is caught off guard and immediately hugs him. She admits that his appreciation always makes her feel loved. Amane wonders if he should start warning her before complimenting her. Mihiru says that would not solve the problem. The next morning, Mihiru asks how work is. Amane says he enjoys both the job and the people there. Relieved, Mihiru admits that she had been worried the workplace might be unpleasant. She promises to continue supporting him from afar. Amane appreciates her efforts, especially knowing that there is always a warm meal waiting for him when he gets home. Mihiru then admits that she wants to visit the cafe and see him working someday. Amane immediately rejects the idea because he would never be able to focus with her around. Mihiru pouts and says she wants to see the smile he gives customers. Amane counters that the smile he saves for her is much better. Mihiru complains that she wants to see both. One day at school, Mihiru lets Ayaka and Chidose sample a dish she is making for Amane. Both girls think it is already perfect, and are surprised to learn that Mihiru still wants to improve it. Mihiru explains that she wants to add a special ingredient, which is why she wanted Ayaka's opinion. Ayaka immediately suggests adding more protein, but the idea is quickly rejected. Later in Mihiru's room, a date on her calendar is shown circled. At the cafe where Amane works, Daichi tastes the coffee Amane brewed and confirms that it is very good. However, he suggests shortening the extraction time. Daichi notices that Amane is overly cautious with the equipment, which slows down both his brewing and his other tasks. He admits that he had the same problem when he first started working at the cafe. He reassures Amane that while he should treat the equipment carefully, he shouldn't be overly cautious. Amane promises to keep his advice in mind. To make him feel better, Daichi mentions that Rino actually broke something on her very first day. Right on cue, Rino appears and immediately asks to try a sip of Amane's coffee. Since she gets a little too close, Daichi pulls her back and reminds her that Amane has a girlfriend. Noticing how naturally the two interact, Amane comments that they seem very close. They explain that they are childhood friends. Daichi jokingly describes it as being stuck with her, irritating Rino. Later that evening, Amane arrives home much earlier than usual. Amane explains that he was not assigned cleanup duty that day, so he practically ran all the way home. He then realizes Mihiru may have been busy and says he will take his time next time. Mihiru quickly denies that she minds and happily tells him she is simply glad he is home. Relieved, Amane says he will continue trying to get home early whenever he can. As they talk, he notices a sweet smell in the air. Mihiru suddenly panics and quickly closes the door, explaining that she had been snacking. The next day at work, Amane tells Soji that he suspects Mihiru is hiding something from him. Soji comments that Mihiru does not seem like the type to be involved in anything suspicious, though he wonders whether Amane plans to investigate. Amane says he has no intention of interfering. Soji smiles, saying that Amane really is a devoted boyfriend. Amane replies that he has to be if he wants to stay by Mihiru's side. To him, he owes Mihiru everything because she saved him. Soji smiles, pointing out that Amane never misses an opportunity to compliment her. Later that evening, Amane asks Mihiru for a hug. Without hesitation, she leans into his embrace. As he holds her close and enjoys her sweet scent, he slides his hands down to her waist. Mihiru suddenly stiffens, causing them to separate. She quickly explains that she normally has no problem with him holding her there. However, she has become a little self-conscious because she thinks she has gained some weight. Amane is confused since Mihiru hardly eats enough to gain weight, though her reaction makes him suspicious. Mihiru hurriedly insists that she still eats 3 proper meals every day before quietly admitting that she has also been snacking between meals. Amane smiles gently and tells her that even if she had gained a little weight, it would not stop him from wanting to hold her. Feeling her resolve crumble, Mihiru invites him back into her arms. Amane happily embraces her. As he does, he notices that she faintly smells like chocolate. Mihiru comments that he has been especially affectionate lately. She asks him to be more careful about where he leaves love bites because Chidose found the last one and teased her endlessly. Amane apologizes and promises to leave one somewhere less noticeable next time. Mihiru tells him that he completely missed the point. When Amane gently takes her hand and gazes at her affectionately, Mihiru loses her resolve and reluctantly says that if he absolutely insists, he should only leave marks somewhere other people cannot see. Amane is pleased that she is not completely against his affection. Mihiru grows flustered and admits that she could never reject him because she feels safest in his arms and loves him very much. Amane rewards her confession with a gentle kiss. When they part, Mihiru once again asks him not to leave marks. She almost adds a condition but stops herself. Amane notices that she cut herself off and becomes curious. Mihiru quickly tells him to forget about it. She throws herself into his arms, causing them to tumble back onto the couch. On one of his days off, Amane meets up with Itsuki and Yuta. After teasing him for a bit, Itsuki seriously asks whether he is sure it is okay to meet since he must be exhausted from work. Amane replies that if anyone should be tired, it is probably Yuta. Yuta explains that he knows how to pace himself and is not juggling a part-time job. Itsuki asks whether work has been difficult. Amane says that business at the cafe is fairly slow. He also mentions that all of his coworkers are kind. Itsuki jokingly asks whether customers have been hitting on him while he serves them. Yuta adds that Amane seems like the kind of guy who would attract older women. Amane admits that older women do talk to him quite often. The boys immediately become interested, forcing Amane to clarify that he is there for work and nothing else. After spending some time together, Itsuki and Yuta decide to head home. They joke that it is time to return Amane to Mahiru. Before leaving, however, they mention that they still have something important to discuss with him tomorrow. When Amane gets home, he notices that Mahiru seems unusually cheerful. Curious, he asks why she is in such a good mood. Mahiru smiles and tells him that today is a very special day. Judging by the confused look on his face, she realizes he has forgotten. She gently reminds him that today is his birthday. It takes Amane a moment before he finally remembers the date. Mahiru smiles warmly and tells him that today is also a very special day for her. Through him, she learned how to be herself, how to care for others, and what it truly means to be happy. That is why she is grateful that he was born and came into her life. Mahiru then looks guilty and apologizes. She explains that their friends originally wanted to throw him a surprise birthday party. However, she selfishly asked them to cancel it because she wanted to have him all to herself today. Amane smiles and says they are lucky to have such understanding friends. Later, after taking his seat at the dining table, Amane is stunned by the feast spread out before him. Mahiru explains that she prepared all of his favorite egg dishes for dinner and decided not to worry about nutrition for just one night. She purposely did not make his favorite rolled omelets because she plans to serve those for breakfast instead. As she continues listing the dishes she has planned for the next morning, Amane realizes breakfast is going to be just as extravagant as dinner. Mahiru giggles and encourages him to start eating while everything is still warm. Unable to contain his excitement, Amane gratefully thanks Mahiru for the meal before taking his first bite. Before he can say anything, however, he notices Mahiru quietly watching him. She shyly admits that seeing him happily enjoy the meals she makes is one of the things that brings her the greatest happiness. Amane says that her cooking is absolutely perfect. According to Mahiru, as long as Amane gives her a perfect score, then she is satisfied. Once they finish their meal, Amane is about to start doing the dishes. However, Mahiru stops him, reasoning that as the birthday boy, he should just relax. She adds that she also prepared something for dessert. Amane guesses that the dessert is something she had been working on in secret. Mahiru confirms that it is and that she wanted it to pass her standards before having him try it. She then presents him with a slice of French-style chocolate cake. Amane is surprised since he knows it's supposed to be difficult to bake. He takes a bite and really savors the flavor. He even has a hard time describing it, which instantly makes Mahiru happy. Mahiru urges him to try to taste the secret ingredient. Amane is confused and decides to take another bite to see if he can identify it. He says he can taste hints of coffee from the shop where he works. Mahiru smiles because he gave the right answer. Mahiru admits that she called Fumika, who even offered to make a special coffee blend. Amane is touched by everything she has done for him today and is even more shocked when Mahiru offers to feed him the rest of the cake. Amane is a little shy about the offer, but since Mahiru insists, he does not refuse her. Once the cake is cleared, Mahiru hands him a gift. Amane opens it and sees a tie pin inside. Mahiru shares that she wasn't sure what she could get him, but decided that getting him something for the future wouldn't hurt. Amane studies it, thanks her, and promises to wear it. Mahiru is happy that he likes her present. She then grows shy and mentions that she has one more present for him. She says that until the end of the day, Amane can ask her to do anything. Amane is shocked by the implications and tells Mahiru that it's too much power for him to be trusted with. Mahiru complains a little that when Amane turns down her advances, it feels like he doesn't want her. She tries to convince him by saying that she already trusts that he wouldn't do anything too mean to her. She also says that if he does, then all he has to do is take responsibility. Amane decides to give in and says that he wants Mahiru to be his pillow tonight. Mahiru only stares at him, and Amane teases her for thinking of something inappropriate. She pretends to be upset over the teasing, but she still says that she'll go get her things. Later, Mahiru comes in dressed in her bunny pajamas. Amane comments that they look perfect on her. When asked to explain, Amane says she looks cute, soft, and even a little lonely. Mahiru pouts because she was hoping he'd wear his costume too. Amane simply walks up to her and says he wouldn't be as cute before gently kissing her. They move to the bed, where Mahiru now sits on his lap as he holds her as tightly as possible. He shares that he wants to hold her as much as he can today because she feels so small right now. Mahiru shares that while she is small, she is definitely a lot sturdier than most people think. Amane says that even so, he wants to cherish her, so he has to remind himself not to be too rough whenever he holds her. He reasons that he does it not because he underestimates her, but because he cares about the most important person in his life, which is Mahiru. Mahiru is touched by his reasoning and sinks deeper into his embrace. Amane then points out that it is already midnight. As they settle down in bed, Mahiru shares that she was hoping to fulfill more of his wishes. Amane asks if it's okay to have one more request because he wants a kiss before they sleep. Mahiru complains that he could have asked for more, though Amane says he is already happy. Mahiru complains because it seems like she is the pushy one. She admits that ever since he started working, she's been lonely and often catches herself worrying that he's being approached by different women. She says she is scared of him someday leaving her because, more than anything, she wants the two of them to be together forever. She is aware that this makes her look needy. Amane shares that he thinks he is even needier than her, so much so that he doesn't want Mahiru looking at anyone else. Mahiru feels herself relax knowing that Amane loves her just as much. She shares the same sentiments as him. She even says that she will not allow Amane to look at other girls. They promise themselves to watch over each other and kiss each other goodnight. Thanks for watching. This marks the end of the season. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed it.